Let's hear it for the boys. I had that song stuck in my head. Is it gonna work? No camera. Oh, camera, you slay me. Let's see. Nothing. Let's see how this works. On a live scene. Oh gosh. Okay, now let's see how this works with no cameras. Hey everybody, how are we doing today? Welcome to our 7th episode of the Threat of Intimacy. We're just gonna get our cameras going. You live to love it. Or you love to live it. Love to live it. There it is. Here you are. Nothing. Hey Tucker. You know what it is. Having that fun webcam goodness. It looks like they don't want to turn on today, which is going to make chatting really fun. I'm going to go ahead and do something. Oh, one of them just turned on. Oh, I got my hopes up. Oh, I'm huge. Check me out. Okay, hold on. I think I'm going to play with it a little bit more. Oh, hello. Hello, Loki. Okay, hang on. This is going to get real fun. Okay. Let's try. Okay, wait. Let's. Oh, geez. I think. Hold on. This is really funny. I can't. Let me go ahead and get myself into a screen. Here we go. That's some kind of a threat, all right. Wonderful. My Lanza. Let's see if this is a little bit better here. It should be 1,000% less laggy. I'm hoping. Hey, Michael. Welcome to the chat. We're getting ourselves going here. You know what? Let's bring in Jimmy if we can. My something. Hey, Jimmy, can you hear me? You might be. I'm going to show you on the stream, and then maybe I'll be able to hear you. I might have muted, though, because Tech and me we're friends today. I see you. Okay, now let me make sure.
Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah.
Good.
Ooh. Am I still, like, super choppy and... Oh, hello, Alfie! Sir
Yes.
Alfie. Okay, am I still a little bit... I was trying to get things... I'm choppy. I'm a little choppy here. Okay. It's been a really interesting streaming week, where my streaming devices have been like, no, that's the interest. I've just been very much like partying like it's 1996. It's just pixels. That is to say that in this world, pixels existed back in 1996. in this live stream world, we're just making it up as we go. Let me see if I can make this a little bit smoother. How are you doing? You're coming in clear, looking great.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm doing all right. I flew back from Columbus, Ohio this morning, and I'm here. I'm here for the. I feel like I'm being threatened with intimacy here, but despite the threat, my presence is here.
Yay! Welcome. Yeah, you know what? We're just gonna dive in. We'll dive in and then chop be damned. Hopefully, it'll just kind of like even out as it goes. For some reason, my system has just not been. It's been a little bit heavy because I downloaded this really big game to the system. So Diablo 4 is just kind of like eating my stuff alive.
The
You know,
devil will do.
yeah. I mean, it's in the name. Can I be mad at the scorpion? I don't know. I took the ticket to ride.
It's
So
in its nature.
hey, Bar Dog, welcome. Are you able to see the chat as well? Are you doing a combo
The chat is on the
on
link
there?
you sent me. It's Thank you, Michael Clark. I tried to find you at tapings this weekend, Jimmy. Great shows. Thank you. I did think they went well. We had a nice crowd in Columbus. I saw the basically the entire pay-per-view. I thought they went well. I didn't see much of the TV as I was working backstage, as I tend to do, but it sounded good to me. So
Awesome, awesome. Oh, here we go. I've made myself. I've done this. I've partied. I've partied with the.
there you go. You're starting to move like not a robot, like not a computer almost, even though I mean we all are, but
A wigglier computer. I like
well,
more like in the worm zone. I think I like to stay. Is you know, it's a little bit stealthier computer, right? Smoother rendering.
yeah, the rendering power and the structure we're in seems to be okay, but when you start to get into the simulacrum realm, where it's a simulation within a simulation, here you are, a little pixelated, and that's just what happens.
Here, I got a fun one too. I could do here for you. I could make it look a little bit like where we go, we go. Oh, now I'm looking at you.
Here I am.
There, it's better. It's just better. It feels like I'm, because I'm looking at you here, but then in the screen, it's like I'm here, and it just feels like it's, I don't want you to think I'm not looking at you as a computer in a computer. You know what I mean? I don't want to take you out of it.
It's all right whether you're looking at it or not. I'm seeing a video of myself on a video of my character on the video game screen.
You know what it is when someone's choppy, it just takes you out of the whole. If you're gonna tell a story, don't tell the real story. Don't be choppy about it because it just takes you out of the whole thing.
Right. It takes me out of the moment. I go, oh, now I realize I'm in a video game. I'm in a dream right now,
Yeah.
and that out of it. The whole point is the immersement in the game.
That how you're gonna get intimate if you're taken out of it, then you're lost.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So you can't lose yourself in it. So welcome to my little passion project. This is the Threat of Intimacy. The name was an inspiration actually from a game and an amalgamation of things throughout all of our adventures, all of the adventures that we've had just in life. And I picked the threat because I find that intimacy isn't very threatening, yet all of us are quite afraid of it for one reason or
Yeah,
another.
I mean, it is. I would. I'll push back against that, and there is an inbuilt threat that's part of being a human animal, right? It's like humans are both flesh and spirit, and the flesh part feels threatened because the flesh part will die. So intimacy and exposure, really, because that's ultimately what it is. It's exposure and openness can make one feel threatened. Yet we pick up all these we pick up all the threats throughout our life, right? Especially as a child, you pick up these different threats that you hold with you to think that intimacy is poses a danger, right? So
Yeah.
there's an inbuilt threat in there, inherent, I think, to the human animal part of the experience.
Do you think that by the same token or by that nature, because nothing can exist solely by itself, it has to have a partner to balance?
Maybe, maybe.
Well, like it's one of those things where like it could be nothing and everything. It can't only be nothing by that perspective, which is a perspective. By it being a threat, it could also be a strength. By it
Yeah.
by it being a fear, it could also be right because it's a fear, but it's also an empowerment.
Well, that's the process, right? That's the pattern of one of the patterns of reality is the fear
That's so
becomes
good.
the fear becomes the strength once it's worked through and ultimately transcended. You can't transcend it by itself. You have to work through the fear, and then it becomes a superpower. That's how it works, right? That is what we call unpleasant experiences, what we call negative experiences. Those are simply the resistance that one works through in order to build strength. No different than being at the gym and tearing your muscles a little bit, but you have to have the weight on there in order for the strength to build. There's really no other way, I don't think. And I could be wrong. I have to give that more thought, but that's ultimately what it is, right? My favorite quote is Joseph Campbell: "The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek," and I find that to be a truism in life.
Ooh, can you say
Um,
that one more time? A little bit. It's a
the
little bit.
cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek.
Yeah.
That's a Joseph Campbell quote.
Yeah.
Yeah, I find that to be a truism. My favorite quote. I find that to be a truism in that what we are all looking for is hidden behind what we fear and is working through the fear that we find the treasure on the other side. But you gotta go into the abyss. You have to.
Ooh, I like that. I really like that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a good one. We're definitely gonna have to like caption that for the Discord. That's really awesome. I also agree. I've equated it recently. It's really funny that you said it about fitness. Because that was an example I used not too long ago to try and like find another language to kind of share how I view it because I think it's different for everyone and it's not going to be the same kind of obstacle course and it won't necessarily be like what weightlifting is for me might be yoga for you or it might be like a different set of obstacles, which makes it great, which I think the more we share our version of those obstacles, I think those are like all different languages and ways that we can all kind of like combine efforts. And maybe what works for you may not work for me, but in hearing what works for you, it could turn on the light bulb for me into something that I might be afraid of facing. And then I go, well, wow, like Jimmy faced this like this. And that actually kind of shows me what I'm afraid of. And I feel a little bit stronger today to take on that, but in my own way, you know?
Right. Well, we all have variations of so reality has sort of two things going on at once, which is pretty cool. It has the unity and the multiplicity, right? This is the fact that non-duality expresses itself in duality, and I hope I'm not getting over too many people's heads here. So
Now let's
there's
dive right in the ocean. Let's go.
so there's something that is similar, but the similarity, the oneness, it manifests itself in variation, right?
Okay.
So while you and I might have different um, different languages, different costumes, there's a unity that underlies it that makes it the same. So that's why a quote like "the cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek." That's true, and it's true across the board. It's true no matter what your fear is. Your fear might be different than mine, but the pattern is the same. So it's I find that to be a pretty cool thing about reality is that we can say, oh, we can appreciate the differences, but it's the acknowledgement that there's a sameness, there's a unity that underlies all of it, which that's what allows stories, let's say, to ring true, right? Why is this story over here? Why does that resonate with people? It's like, why does this adventure story? Why does
Yeah.
Frodo and the Ring of Power? Why does that story that none of us are ever going to have
Right.
to take a ring to Mordor? But
Yeah.
there's something about the story that rings true because it's true here and it's true here and it's true across the board. It says something about the structure of reality itself, the patterns that we all live in. So whether my struggle was, drug addiction years ago, or whether the struggle is, just just insecurity here that manifests itself as me being egotistical and full of myself, whatever this struggle is, it's the same sort of thing underneath. And we can use the same pattern, the same story to talk about all these particulars, all the variations. They all fall into one thing fundamentally. Isn't that cool?
Yeah, it is. Wait, I love studies like this, and there was one study that I want to dig in a little bit deeper because I think you'd be interested in it. And it's not like one person in one study, but I took a class in neuroscience. The class was called Neuroscience in Music, and only two people I have found in universities teaching this class. It was like musicians really liked neuroscience, and they decided to try and combine the two because they wanted to find out the commonality in the structure of sound. So in the same way, we all have these trepidations, we all have these journeys that we say a million different ways in all these storytelling devices, or in things like this, in podcasts and talk shows, and in wrestling matches, we tell these stories of how to overcome and how to face fear. We have we have scales, we have lullabies, we have dissonant sounds, we have consonant sounds, right? But they go throughout civilizations, they go throughout cultures that have never spoken to each other, yet you can find the same patterns with these sounds that trigger the same emotional values. And they do the same things to our bodies. So, the same cortisol will be released, the same endorphins will be released. So, if our bodies can react to these sounds in these very natural ways, and bring us to these same types of overcoming fear just by sound, that's in and of itself another language or another way to kind of get us to the stage. I look at it.
Yeah, well, it says something, what comes up for me is it says something about the structure of reality, that it's not arbitrary, that, something like music, while, socially constructed in its variety, is not socially constructed as such,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's the same thing with story. This is, bring back to Joseph Campbell. This is, his book, The Hero with a Thousand Faces. He took different stories and mythologies from all sorts of cultures and came up with basically a meta story. It's like the story of stories, right? And he coined the hero's journey through that. So, and the hero's journey says something about the structure of reality. It's it's not that someone's just making up this myth here and this myth is false. No, the myth is truer than fact. It's meta fact. It is the story of the structure of reality is what it is. And so music mirrors the structure of reality. Our bodies, the fact that they react to music universally says something about how our bodies are a part of nature, and nature is part of the structure of reality. So we're all talking about what we're fundamentally talking about to me all the time is just patterns, and the patterns that map onto reality itself. And for me, it's trying to point out those patterns, find those patterns, and go, yes, this is how it works. And I can abstract my individual situation and I can map it onto here. I can abstract the moral of the story and map it onto my life. So you start to see that there is something, in the Christian mythology, it's called the Logos, or in the Taoists call it the Tao. And
Oh, yeah.
there's similar concepts, right? It's like there's a way, and there's a way of nature. There's a proper way of being that puts you in alignment with
Yeah.
nature. And yeah, this is, the Christian logos, the idea that there is a way of being to reality itself, and there's subsequently a way of being that the individual and the family unit and the community and society as a whole can act to be in alignment with the logos, to be in alignment with the way. And you stray from that at your own peril. That's where the sort of discordant stuff comes from, right? It's the same idea of things being discordant in music. I can live not according to the way, and I butt up against it, and that's not pleasant for me.
Yeah. Yeah. And it feels different. And like I feel like at different points of my personal experience, and like I would love to hear yours as well. Thank you, cool awesome dude, for the bits. Yes. I gotta see how the alerts are doing on that, but thank you so much for the cheers. um there have been different points where, like, depending on how I've been focused on connecting, because it's wrangling cats. Wrangling myself is, okay, I gotta make sure I'm working on this side of myself. All right, got some healing there, and then I get, a little distracted here, and then I go, okay, wrangle the cats here, and then I haven't worked on this part of me yet. Well, let's try to heal this one up, and then you slack on that one a little bit, and so it is kind of like a pie. I look at it like I'm going in a circle to do it. But if I get distracted at certain points, it's almost like that dissonance, it manifests differently, and different parts of me become congested, and like I don't always know right away. And I feel like I get better at certain cues, so that I'm like, the next time I get distracted, I'm I'm aware of it because I was distracted the last time, but I'm distracted in a different way, and I'm pulled from my alignment with myself and my conversation, the things that I'm doing that bring me alignment with my family and me, and like the things I'm doing. And then I turn around, I'm like, oh, my gut, oh, why am I feeling so sick? Why is nothing working? Why am I butting up against a wall and I'm not doing well? And I turn around like, oh man, how did I even get here? Because it's like another thing.
Yeah, that's the cool thing about reality. That's the cool thing about reality, right? Is that it's a feedback system, right? It lets you know if you're not in alignment. It gives you an appropriate output for the input that you put into it, right? So if I put something into reality and it gives me this thing back, it will warn me. It will give me physical discomfort. It will give me physical symptoms. This is where things like dis-ease come from. As there's incoherence in the body, you know, in various ways, and it manifests in particular ways depending on where things are askew. So it's cool. Reality is sort of the way I view it. It's you talk about wrangling cats. It's wrangling us. It's wrangling.
A bunch of stray us.
You're sitting here. You're missing the mark, and you're gonna experience the consequences of missing the mark. So realign yourself, and the consequences will get worse and worse and worse and worse until in like the addiction world they call it rock bottom. But that pattern, again, it's not exclusive to addiction. It's just whatever you're doing. If I'm not loving myself properly, let's say, there's a lot of negative self-talk, there's a lot of beating myself up, there's a lot of guilt, there's a lot of shame, and if I'm perpetuating that continuously, the discomfort is going to get worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And that's reality letting me know. It's doing me a favor. It's going, hey man, hey, you're living out of alignment with what is. You're not treating yourself as though you're whole, as though you're worthy of love, as though you're a child of God, so to speak. And because that's not true, you're gonna feel the consequences of not living in alignment with truth. In the same way that if I, try to go outside and pretend gravity doesn't exist, or the phenomenon that we call gravity, if you will, that's fine for a little bit until you come to a cliff and you fall off it.
Yeah.
So in all sorts of ways, if you're living in a way that isn't true, and I believe the deepest truth is that we're all one, that we're all whole, that we're all part of the one universal consciousness and worthy of love and our love and all those sorts of things. If you're not living in alignment with that, like you're gonna feel it.
Mm. Uh, how? What are some ways that you try to bring yourself back when you realize you're not living? Like, what are some of your ways you support yourself? If you don't mind sharing your tips. And now I know it's what works for you, and yeah, what works for me, but sometimes even just sharing that can help trigger ideas. And if anyone in the chat has any questions for Jimmy or myself, please get rowdy in the chat. Take advantage of us here.
I love being taken advantage
Yeah,
of.
yeah, in the greatest way possible. We mean that with love.
This has been a challenging year for me, particularly. I bought a property in rural Georgia, sort of in the middle of nowhere, and a lot of isolation. So this it's been challenging, and so I've been going through it a bit. Um, for me, there's a comfort in knowing underneath it all that it's all fine, and so connecting with that place of knowing becomes important, right? Which does look something like meditation. It does look something like breathing. It does look something like getting into my heart center and going into that place of knowing, going, it's fine, dude. You're fine. You don't need to beat yourself up. You don't need to do anything. Like you're okay just as you are. Like so you can take the pressure off yourself. You know, one of my big things is like, well, I'm failing at life. You know, it's a very existential fear, right? It's like it's the fear of dying and uh, looking at your creator and the creator going, you did it wrong, right? It's that same pattern. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen after you die.
Yeah,
Like
but
I might
feel it.
die and look at myself and go, hey Chris, you could have done all these things and you let fear get to you. So it's even that fear of my own judgment that I'm not living life right. And that comes in all sorts of ways, in the way I eat and the way I treat other people and the leaps I take and don't take and all that sort of stuff. So it's important not to get too far out in the poles, too far out in the fringes, too far off in the sides for too long, where the noise builds up. You have
That's
to have that.
crazy.
Yeah, you have to have that time to come back in the center. Oh, hey, I live in rural Georgia too, says Eyes of a Bard.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
so that's my friend Bard Dog. I call him Bard Dog for short. He's a longtime friend. I met him back in Boston, and now he lives in Georgia, close to you probably.
maybe. There's a lot of ruralness in Georgia. I'm about halfway in between Atlanta and Augusta off of 20. And May Omega Pyro says, I'm just sitting here completely hooked on everything being said. Oh, that's
Thanks,
nice.
Pyro.
And Andrew says, what do you find is the easiest way to try and uh, bring yourself back to center? It's
Wow.
breathing fundamentally. It is.
So when you're caught in the fringes, is there a signal you give yourself to be like, okay, we have to breathe now? Like, do you ever find that resistance to like, no, I don't want to meditate? Like, when you're like, because I love meditating, I love yoga, and I've been like lost in the fringes recently.
Mhm.
The last 4 months, I've been a little bratty with myself, if we're being completely vulnerable here, and I find that the noise can kind of take over. And I've tried running a few tips of like jarring myself out of the fringes, which was a tip my Aunt Teresa gave.
Which is what?
Like, okay, when you're lost in the noise, she said, just do something completely different, like open a book. If you're typing, turn around and open a book. It's completely different. Or get up and leave the room and step outside, even if you have no intention outside. Or start washing a dish. Like the complete change of action changes your neurotransmitters to be doing something different. And even if you don't want to wash dishes or be outside, or like all of a sudden you give your mind a break to go, wait, what do we really need to be doing? So it stops listening to the fringe to give you a moment to like talk to yourself.
Yeah, it's a pattern disruptor,
Yeah, it
right?
just disrupts it. It
That
disrupts your own self for a second.
you've got the mental loop going on
And we're like,
that, and yeah, it's all about disrupting the patterns on multiple levels. It's like a pattern of a pattern. Yeah,
right?
says
Oh,
Turbo
Turbo
Killer.
Killer.
Yeah, just
What's up
popping in.
popping in?
Sunny and windy AZ. I did used to live out. I was out in Phoenix for a couple of years, up until a year ago. And Bardo here says I'm between Atlanta and Macon, so we're probably a couple hours away. Athens is a good area near there. Yeah, so I'm
Nice.
about 40 minutes outside Athens.
Oh, that's
Um,
cool.
yeah, for the time being. So yeah, and just breathing.
Do you have a favorite one that you do? Like, do you have a, oh, I do the 5 minute one, or do you have like a go to one that you do that you'd want to do now?
Sometimes all it takes, and it's gotten fairly instinctual. Like I'm fairly I'm far more tuned into my body than I used to be, which was to say I wasn't at all before. But now there is a bit of a habitual, like, oh, if it starts tensing up too much, if I feel the fire a little bit, one goes a really long way. From disrupting your body signals from going, oh, we need to, this is fight or flight now. Something needs to happen. I'm about to die.
My favorite is that I picture me as like the bunch of the Kermits.
Yeah.
Ah!
Yeah, it's really interesting what your body will do in different situations that it perceives to be life or death situations, right? Um, and programs are built all throughout our body with the memory it holds from our experiences in the past, right? Our psyche experiences something, then our body subsequently creates a pattern, or sorry, creates a program to protect itself because it feels as though it's a life or death situation. And of course, most of these is what I would say is a false fight or flight, right? If someone says to me, "Hey, screw you, buddy," um, because of something I experienced in the past, I might perceive that as a life or death situation.
Yep.
I know that I do. I don't consciously think life or death situation. My body thinks that. It
Yeah.
feels as though I'm being attacked. And you can get signals from your body. Like it tenses up, you bow up, there's an adrenaline rush, maybe there's some fire going on inside. And that's your body saying, like, we're ready to go. This is it. You're being attacked, even if you're only being attacked verbally. Even if
Yeah.
someone says, oh, Chris, you're stupid.
Yeah. Like in
And
passing, it's not even anything, and then all of a sudden, it's like,
yeah, and you have a program in your body that's telling you this is a life or death situation, and it's just not, right? So we have all these like old programs in our hardware here that a lot of the work right now of last year for me is to see where my body is holding tension, where these programs are, what parts of the body they are, what sort of memories are held there, and letting my body know, like, hey, this isn't a life or death situation. This isn't a madman running into the house with a knife. This is someone thinking you're stupid. This is, you having to make a decision by yourself. This, whatever it is. And we have, depending on our experience in the past, we have different programs that are running.
thanks for popping in, Turbo. We appreciate it. Don't worry, it'll be available. We're gonna post this up on YouTube. Yeah, yeah, and it's really helpful. Even just being aware and being reminded. And for those of you that do meditate already, it's great to just rehear it and hear that we're on, like, we're doing it and we're breathing, and just get a little bit of support. Because it can be tough, even if we feel like we're doing it and we're doing those things. It could be nice to just feel a little supported that, like, these are some really good, helpful things. Michael Clark, I've been struggling a lot lately because the first year and the 1 year anniversary of my brother's death is next week. I can't shake the feeling that I could have done more to help him while he was sick. How do I shake this feeling? That's a big one. Michael, I'm so sorry. Anniversaries are very tough. Um, I think they stay tough, but how we how we are with them and making sure that we have a group around us and a support system can also change. And I'm really glad that you're around us now and you're in the Discord, and you've been a wonderful catch. I love having you in the Discord, so I'm glad that you're around and you'll be with us through this tough time. Jimmy, do you want to share how you would shake this feeling? There's a lot of S's in there for
Yeah,
me.
so there's a few things.
Shake, shake, shake.
Yeah, there's a few things that just come up for me, and this is just again what comes up for me. It's not necessarily true as such. It's just what comes up for me. Even the question of how do I shake this feeling? My first response is you don't want to shake the feeling.
Yeah,
You want to feel the feeling,
yeah,
right? And feel what that feeling is trying to tell you, and let that emotion just pass through you instead of going, oh no, I have this feeling and it's a bad feeling and I need to like go, oh, this feeling is wrong. I'm wrong for feeling this way. Going, no, I'm allowed to feel this way. I'm allowed to feel however I want to feel, because the emotion wants to run through you. You can think of yourself as a vessel for energy, so to speak, to run through you. And the more we try to stop it from running through us, the more that stuff gets caught, and more situations in your life will transpire that trigger this stored emotion in order for you to let it go. That's what the external world will do, because it sort of manifests itself based on us, right? It will give you more situations to allow you to feel this feeling. So it wants to move through you so you can be an open vessel. So the energy can just like, so it can move through you properly. So that's the first thing that came up. The other thing that came up is obviously, I don't want to say how you feel, but what comes up for me is feelings of guilt here, right? It's like there's more that I could have done. It's my fault, and guilt is a difficult one, I think, but it's forgiving yourself. First of all, it isn't your fault. And you can believe that or not believe that, but it's not your fault. So an understanding of that perhaps would be helpful, that, hey, it's not my fault what happened. But ultimately, it's forgiveness, which is very, very similar to acceptance, which is saying that the past happened how it happened, and I can't do anything about it. And dragging it with me, and bringing that with me, carrying that luggage around with me, ultimately isn't fair to me. If I want to treat myself with love, with wholeness, with the being that I am, with this unconditional love, where it doesn't matter what I do, my worthiness is not contingent upon what I've done. If you want to treat yourself like that, it's ultimately feeling your emotions and letting that go, forgiving yourself and accepting the past as the past, and knowing that to bring it along with you, to hold on to that guilt, it's only punishing you. And as you punish yourself, you can't show up for the world better either, right? So it's a punishment to the world as well. As we treat ourselves, so we show up in the world. they go hand in hand. You can't separate the two things. So ultimately, it's the journey of unconditional love, which is the journey of life, right? That's the entire journey of life, is full embodiment, which I don't know if we ever get to here, full embodiment of my wholeness and my unconditional love for myself, which then allows me to love others unconditionally as well.
I couldn't have fucking said it better myself. Wherever you go, there you are. Thank you. That's it. That's a huge part of it. Michael, yeah, embrace. I really hope you embrace yourself. A big part of what's going to come is constantly figuring out ways to embrace yourself. The last thing you want is a traffic jam, which is what Jimmy is expressing there. Because without embracing this feeling that you initially wanted to shake, which I feel like now is changed in one text, then it causes a traffic jam because that lesson will still have to be learned. And then if that lesson goes unlearned, the other ones that we want to learn still go unlearned because there might be a lesson after that that needs to come. But if we don't do that one, we won't get to the next one after that one because there's levels to it. And it does prevent us from loving the people around us and seeing ourselves and how we affect others without that embracing. And how we embrace ourselves deepens our connection with ourselves. And how deep we go with ourselves allows us to go deeper with the people around us. It allows us to accept others around us fully and completely because we're deeper with ourselves in those moments then. And it also allows us to then celebrate those that are no longer with us. It's difficult, it's hard, and a part of this life is also loss because it makes everything so much more special in this bittersweet way. And just as much, me, I love to celebrate, Jimmy. You know that I love my forts and the celebrations. And a big part of that is also carrying forth the wonderful, amazing, incredible things of the people that are no longer with us. That's how we hold on to them. And that's how their memories live on. And that's what makes us better people. That's how we carry it forward. And so hopefully there's things from your brother that you can celebrate that'll help make it a little less rough. I know that's also traditional with cultures, and that's also a part of what I offer is like sharing in our cultural differences. Like I grew up where there's Halloween is a day where we celebrate our dead and the wonderful things that they have taught us and given us. And perhaps that is a thing on anniversaries to do something that was a favorite of theirs in a happy way, to bring light to the great moments that we had. That was
Yes,
really wonderful. Go ahead.
so much of life is I find to be, again, all of this is just where I'm at right now too, right? And this has changed throughout
Right.
the years, and it'll change more.
It'll change
But
for us tomorrow and the next day, and we could do this podcast again together in like 3 months, and we'll be different. But it's awesome.
so much of life is the experience of loss, right? Because that's one of the, I would say, and you can frame this different ways, but the fundamental pattern of life is death and rebirth, right? Death and life, up and down. This is and this reality is fractal, right? It's self similar across levels, and so there's parts of ourselves that we let go all the time, right? There's parts of our lives we let go. There are people that we lose either through literal death, or just they used to be a part of our lives and they're no longer anymore. And it's such a part of this is learning to let go isn't quite the word for it, but like learning to let things move through you,
Yeah.
because transience is the nature of the reality, right? Everything that appears manifest will one day no longer be manifest, right? Everything that is now will no longer be at some point. So it's getting it's making friends with that in some level, right? Making friends with the death part, literal and metaphorical, because with that comes the rebirth part, and you can't, and they're both part of the story. So that's all when we talk about stories, like that's what all stories are. Like, and at the end, it either ends with the down in a tragedy or ends with the up in a comedy. But it never ends. The story actually never ends. It just goes up and down. It's the same way with a wrestling match. It's like you come in, you establish the good guy and the bad guy, and the bad guy's beating them up for a while, and then the good guy makes a comeback, right? And that's all. That's all. Everything is this constant wave of death and rebirth, up and down, which is really the the contraction and the expansion of consciousness, I think, at the end of the day. But again, it manifests in all sorts of things. I mean, that's how the breath manifests itself, as a contraction and an expansion. That's we were talking about working out. It's like a contraction and an expansion. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, it's just reality is self-similar all around, and so you see that, and it's part of this experience is to go deep and go all in despite that. Maybe because of that, I'm not sure. But going all in, knowing at some point this is going to be gone, and still having the courage and the vulnerability to buy that dog and, adopt that dog, even though, in 10 years or 15 years, like that, the love, that guy is going to be gone. And that's heart wrenching to me to even think about, you know, buying, getting a dog or something. It's like, but it's going to be gone before I am. And knowing that heartache is going to happen in your life, just like having that acceptance and still going, yeah, but it's worth it. Yeah.
It's worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, lately that's definitely been not the specific example, but that kind of like, okay, this chapter, how do I want to interact? How do I want to react with the contract, like the contraction and the breathing in and the breathing out? How do I want to react? How did I react? Like almost like a reflection on how I've reacted. Okay, what were the benefit? Like a checking in with my relationship status, with the ebbs and flows of the past. Which was a different way for me to look at it, because it's like, and I don't know how you've looked at, like, well, we all analyze how we've done a project, or like how we've done, oh, how did I do on my match, or how did I do on this thing. But recently I've been looking at it in this way, where I've like, all right, how did I ride the Ferris wheel this time? I went up, I went down, I got off, it looks like I'm back on again. What do I want to do differently? Okay, when did I when did I slam on the stop button so that I could stay up here and get a nicer view? And it's been a different approach that I think has provided me with more insight, but also now I'm like, oh, do I have access to more blind spots from here? I don't know. Is it a different perspective to analyze your match from that perspective versus analyzing it from another language? I don't know. Those were the existential questions I was having this week.
Well, certainly, I think in my life, and I can see times where um, I gripped onto things extremely tightly, and going, "Oh no, I need this, because if I don't have this, then what?" Right? I
Yeah.
find that to be a lot of life, right? We adopt these costumes, right? We adopt an identity, really, and the identity allows us to experience being something. But at some point, that identity is going to need to shed because we're more than our identities, right? I was a WB writer for a couple of years, and the last 6 months, it wasn't for me anymore, and I knew it wasn't for me. And I was like, how do uh, what am I if I don't? I've worked my whole life to be here. What am I if I'm not this thing? If I'm not working for WB, what do I do then? And I, trying to clamp on to this thing that, eventually, thank God, I got fired from. And then once that identity was shed, it was like, oh, oh yeah, that wasn't bad. I can actually breathe, right? So identities allow us to be something, experience something, but if we hold on to it too long, it starts to become quite uncomfortable. We realize that we've outgrown the shirt we're in. We go, but it's my favorite shirt. I can't live without it. But then once you take it off, you go, oh, actually, I feel a little naked, but I can breathe now. We're constantly in this relationship with that, right? It's like riding a wave, and you kind of want to get off at the crest. Otherwise, it'll start to take you down underwater. But that again goes back to making friends with change, making friends with loss, making friends with death, transmuting fear of the unknown into excitement for the possibilities of the unknown.
Ooh, I do love possibilities.
And that's where and they come from the unknown, right? It's like we all have this like real intrinsic fear of the unknown, because that's ultimately like what death is, right? Death from these bodies that's like the great unknown. And so that really holds a ground for so much of our fear, is like it is the unknown. But you have to then realize it's from the unknown that all new things transpire. It's from that chaos, it's from that feminine, it's from that womb that all birth, all new experience comes to fruition. So it's making friends with that and going, yeah, I don't know what's going to happen, but here we go. And I think the more you make friends with that, the more you realize that the structure of reality, the universe, whatever you want to call this thing, is for us. It's working for us. It's in our favor.
It's trying so hard to get us wherever we are going. It's trying.
And it's just like, oh, trust me. It's okay. You don't need to I've got this damn vape here, and it's like it's it's an adult pacifier, but it's this thing I hold on to go, no, I need to have something. I can't. So this is the manifestation of Chris feeling like he needs to grasp onto something, or else like what happens if he's just free floating through space, jumping out of the plane without a parachute. You realize, it's okay, because you can jump out of the plane without a parachute, because there's no bottom. You go, you're fine.
Yeah. Oh no. Yeah. No, I totally get it. Yeah, there's a beauty of clarity when going through the anxiety or in an ordeal to feel refreshed and optimistic. Yeah, and I feel like it changes. And I really liked this this flip on safe space that my aunt taught me. I really want to connect you with Aunt Teresa. I think you'd have a blast talking with her. I had no idea we overlapped so much, me and her, but next time. So she likes to use brave space because safe space, I feel that, safe space gets used a lot. And I feel that it also can create like an extra layer of the trepidation and like, hey, I need a safe space, but it also creates too much comfort where we don't then act courageous through our fear to get to where we need to get. If I'm in a safe space all the time, I'm comfortable. So I won't get on the jungle gym because I'm comfortable. Like I don't need to venture out, which means I'm comfortable. So she uses brave space because it does acknowledge that everyone who's also like doing the thing and like they get those compliments like, oh, you're so brave and courageous. Oh, Jimmy, you face that fear. Like you are so courageous. It's like, yeah, but Jimmy was probably very afraid and anxious and nervous and probably wanted to puke, but he's a brave space, but you're still meeting your fear. There's still fear every time. It doesn't mean that it's gone. We still all have all those emotions. And it just acknowledges that those will still be there because everyone that's also doing the things that we all need to be doing still experience those emotions. You know what I mean? They're still
Of course.
present there
Hey,
to kind of give
what,
that. Hey,
what's up, Mark?
Marvelous, how you doing?
So beautiful solo, but just all right.
Beautiful Jimmy. Hello. Hey,
No,
Jimmy.
Um, yeah. So look, man, there's definitely utility to something like it's become a loaded term, right? Safe space, but there's
To kind of
there's
help encourage people is why she uses it.
well, so there's certain utility to having a space that's safe to be vulnerable,
Yeah.
and uh, but to your point, too much of it creates comfort, which creates weakness, right?
Yeah.
And this is what I see as the fundamental pattern of reality. It's what the Taoists do, I think, with the yin and yang, right?
Yeah, go
It's,
ahead. You can talk about Taoism. You can go
yeah,
on, teach us a little bit about it.
the balance between the masculine and feminine, right? The yin and yang. Like there's a time for comfort, compassion, safety, all that sort of stuff. Like that needs to be there. That needs to be there. But too much of it does create weakness because there's nothing for it to butt up against. So you do need challenge over here. You need the masculine over here. You need structure. You need boundaries. You need order. You need this over here, as well as the openness of the feminine. And please, when I talk about feminine and masculine, I'm not talking about, human males and human females. I'm
This is
talking
under
about
Taoism. This is the language
right.
through Taoism.
I'm talking about in the Hermetic laws, the 70 universal principles of Hermeticism. I'm talking about the law of gender, right? Which is again, please divorce it from your ideas of man and woman.
Not physical.
Right. These are principles. You can think of masculine as again, you know, order and chaos, and it's not chaos in the pejorative, like the feminine is bad. You could also think of it as like boundaries and openness. That's kind of how I like to think of it, right? So boundaries, it's a penetrative energy. It is the doing as opposed to the being. It is the penetrative as opposed to the receptive. It's the severity as opposed to the mercy. It is these two different sides of the same coin that both need to be in balance at all times, and that's where the Tao is, right? That's where the way is. It's the balance between these two principles. So too much openness creates too much acceptance, too much compassion. That creates that like I like to say the shadow of compassion is enabling, right? And you can think of this as the archetype of the overindulgent mother. Like you've seen Game of Thrones, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh
So
yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. I was like, did chat me? Yeah.
Game of Thrones.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Catelyn Stark's sister in the first couple seasons. You remember
Yeah.
her using the veil, and she's got that petulant little weak boy who she babies to death, and he's just like sick and he's weak and he can't do it. Like she's the perfect archetype of the overindulgent mother, right? And so this is what happens when the space is too safe, too much. But if I go on the other side and go, oh, now it's too much danger, too much discipline, too many boundaries, too much severity, too much harshness. This is like tyrannical
Right.
over
Then like abuse.
Tamps
It's
down here.
yeah. It's survival mode, and then it's making the child either incompetent in one way or they're in survival mode. the child has to have a healthy balance to grow so that they become self-sufficient.
Yeah, and when we're talking about child, we're just
For
talking
that
about
specific example.
the
Yeah,
metaphorical
yeah.
child. Yeah,
But in
yeah.
this
So
instance, yeah, you need that balance. So all those words are all just different languages from a bunch of different resources to say that there needs to be a healthy balance.
right, a balance between basically rest and movement, almost right, like
Yeah.
doing and being. You need, you know,
Doing
you
and
need
being is
balance.
the perfect
Yeah.
choice. Yeah, doing and being.
hmm So yeah. So when you talk about things like safe spaces, and sometimes that the one side of things goes, oh, that's there shouldn't be any safe spaces. Like no, there definitely do need to be safe spaces. You just can't have all safe spaces all the time. Otherwise, people never butt up against any challenge. They never butt up against something that challenges them, that
Yeah.
pushes them to be stronger,
We
that
won't
confronts
grow.
their ideas. Yes, exactly.
We can't live in safety. Yeah, exactly, Andrew. We need to grow. So there has to be some kind of resistance and lesson there to in order for us to grow. Like how else are we going to evolve? The reason we've evolved so much is through growth, is through meeting resistance and challenges,
So you need a certain amount of resistance. You just can't have it like all the
all the
time.
time, always, because then you're, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a feeling of pessimistic versus optimistic, being able to be fueled by adrenaline and some form of unknown, and not letting the threat fear overpower one's ambitions.
And look, it's okay to you can cave into the fear sometimes too, right? It's like you have to give yourself space for that as well. Like
Yeah.
you have to give yourself, you don't have to do anything, but for me, it's you give yourself space for all of it. And the more awareness you have of it, the better. The more awareness I have to go, yeah, I know this is something I really need to do. I mean, this lesson is coming up. It's not going to go away. I need to confront it, but not today. That's okay. Like I'm allowed to give that to myself as well, as opposed to beating myself up and going, God, you're caving into the fear, man. Look at you. You're caving into the fear. You know better than this. You should be better than this. Because that creates a whole another cycle of beating myself up, and then I just go down. And so yeah, it's some of that awareness and leaving space for all of it at the end. I think, right? Um, Not creating so much of this internal schism to go, this is bad and this is good. Although I do believe that there are things that are good and bad, but not to separate myself in these things, leave these parts of myself down here because I view them as bad and going, I need just to get rid of this. I need to just suppress this because like reality cannot be suppressed. So whatever is coming up, even if I don't like it, even if I view it as bad, I need to give it space in me. Otherwise, it's still going to come up. So you got to make it conscious. You got to bring light to it and deal with it because even the bad stuff, even the part of me that's lazy, even the part of me that's, is petulant or fears, all these things I don't tend to like about myself, those all need a space in me because they're all asking for something, right?
Yeah. You were taking a minute there, so I was giving you a minute in case you were reading something. Um, I really like the way that you go about your inquiry, your self inquiry. I find that I do that a lot too, and I also give myself a little bit more room nowadays. Um, I want to get your opinion on uh, the words like shoulds, coulds, woulds. I studied she's no longer with us. I have to get the name, but I'll pop up her interview later. I'll find it. She was a tribe leader, a Native American tribe leader, and she was speaking on like self love and love as it relates to our connection to the earth. And she was like, I don't know what these words mean, they put so much pressure on us. If we do more being, like her pitch was being, right? And she was like, why am I saying should? Why am I should of doing something? Why am I would of something? Could have? I'm here now. This is what matters. Today, now, right now, present matters. I don't know what should have or could have. So why am I creating a reality that is on top of a reality that's not real yet, or doesn't, it's not real, and I don't know if it will be real. So I'm creating a reality of pressure on top of me where I could just be focused on this now, and that will create whatever that isn't. I'll make what I need. I'll make whatever I need later now. So absolve the anxiety by not using those words. I find that I'm a person that does too many things. I don't know if you know that.
All the things.
So for someone like me that is trying to get a bunch of things going and has like a lot of dreams that I want to make going, I tend to use those words like it's candy, like it's free candy, and there's jars all over the place. I shoulda, coulda, woulda, like pop, pop, pop. And as soon as I heard that interview, it's been a work of mine to just note with nonviolent language how often I use them. And if I had a penny for every time, I would take you to the slot machines, because I was like, I have so many pennies. So I course correct now that when I use it, I repeat the sentence without it. I go, oh, I should really, like, for instance, I was so busy this week, I didn't get to like make us a cute little funny flyer with our faces photoshopped in a funny way. So I said, I should have made this flyer with me and Jimmy. And then I stopped and I heard myself, because I even did the hand smack, and I was like, ugh. And I was like, I had a really busy week this time. I'm really excited about the episode I'm going to have with Jimmy this week. And I just like changed, like I'm having the episode, right? I'm going to get to talk to you at the end of the week. So like, I'm not going to be creating an anxiety, but to change the inner dialogue and still face it. What do you think about words like that as it relates to your inner dialogue, your inner inquiry, and the relationship you have with yourself?
So that's interesting. Well, of course, there's a lot of different language things that I have, and things that I do my best to be aware of. That isn't, should, would, could isn't something that I've given a whole lot of thought to. It's interesting, listening to you talk about that, and the reframe that you gave yourself is interesting as well. It certainly takes pressure off yourself for what happened in the past that you can no longer do anything about. Talking about the woman you mentioned, of living in the now moment. It's like, yes, of course, that's probably the most, among the most profound ideas one can embody, right? Living in the moment. But we have memory and recollection of the past for a reason. And so this, again, comes down to the balance. It's like, how much do I want to let myself off? Let's say, if I go, well, it doesn't matter that I did this thing that I wanted to do. It doesn't matter at all. If I do that too much, well, maybe I won't be as inclined to deliver for myself in the future, right? If I give myself, again, we're talking about the balance of, it's always going to come down to the balance of these things with me. If I give myself too much mercy for missing the mark for what I want to do with my life, if I give myself too much mercy in that, then there's no accountability, right? And I might not deliver for myself in the future because I just let myself off all the time. Oh yeah, I could have done that, but I didn't. And who cares, right? Now that's too much mercy. But if I go, oh, I should have done that. Oh man, this is really, I should do this and I should do this, and I'm just, look at me, I'm a mess. Like, that's too much severity, right? That's too harsh. I've become a tyrant on myself, right? So we need to give ourselves a certain amount of structure to go, this is what I want to do. This is what I plan to do. Here's the structure for my life. If sometimes that structure falls apart a little bit, that's okay. But if I give myself no structure at all and go, yeah, whatever I do is just going to be fine and who cares? Well, then I'm kind of I'm a floating mess, right? My life is just there's nothing to it. I'm lazy and I'm inefficient and I'm just I've got no aim, I've got no drive, I've got no purpose. So again, for me, these things always come down to the balance. So if you're someone that beats yourself up and I should too much, then it'll be of use for you to go, you know what? I'm gonna maybe not cast that spell on myself anymore. And when I hear myself say the word should, I'm gonna stop, reframe that, or maybe I'm gonna stop and think, well, what do I mean by I should have? What do I actually mean by that? Because we can be so careless with our language and so imprecise. And I do my best to be more and more precise with my language to say what I mean. And so if I say, oh, I should have made this flyer, what I really mean is, hey, I care about this project that I'm doing. And I want it to be the best that it can be. And I didn't get to it this time, and that's okay. But if I want to go all in on this project, I would like it if I prioritized it more. I would like it if I made more time for this so I can show myself in my fullness through this project. And you go, yeah, that's actually what you mean. It's something more like that. And so it reframes what you mean to go, yes, there's a compassion that I have for myself. There's a drive I have for myself. There's the inherent spirit of life that flows through me that wants to manifest itself in this particular way. And as I'm living on this earth, I want to do my best to flourish as much as possible. So let me set myself up for that flourishment and not work against myself.
Yep. So I
Yeah?
didn't get it this time. So what can I do instead of beating myself up and wasting time yelling at myself? Then I won't get to more projects. So what I'll do is, in my little notebook, I'll do 3 flyers for the upcoming blah blah blahs, and I'll do them on ahead of time. And now I know in my schedule that Mondays and Tuesdays I have to have these things out to make myself feel ready for the shows that I have upcoming. So we alter our schedules and we correct it so that we absolve ourselves from like negative talk if we can in the future.
Yeah. I'll consciously give myself the loving structure I need in order to achieve success as I define it.
Language is powerful, especially to the brain. You casually say things like, oh, I'm dumb because it's cute in the moment. But over time, your brain believes the negativity. There's a couple studies that say eliminating even that small self deprecation can improve your whole mood. Yes, we studied that so much in school. It was so fascinating. And there's so many different things. And that's one of my reasons that I love positive psychology is because that's kind of the thing they're working on from all different angles. But also like what to do instead of that. Like for every time we do that, how do you change that? How does the gap get smaller between that? One of my favorite exercises is that entry level of just at first you're going to say the thing you don't want to say. So I had a little notebook back when I started. I would write the thing down that I didn't like that I said. And then I would write down the thing I wish I said instead. And then, I'd say it, but then I would have to say out loud the thing I wish I said instead. And then eventually that gap changes. Then you stop saying the thing you don't want to say. Like there's a time lapse in between. So then you start thinking of the thing you wish you said instead. And then the thing you no longer wish becomes like distant memory. And so it's just like working out. But instead of like rest time in between your sets, like it gets a smaller gap and then you overlap the voice and then it becomes yeah. But then what I've noticed, and maybe you've noticed this too, once you start replacing it and you start really embracing yourself and you really accept and you really are working on that, when you hear other people saying those things, it stands out. And it hurts. It hurts. Yeah, it's like nails on a chalkboard. It hurts me to hear other people talk that way about themselves. And when I'm here live with people and I hear it, I'm like, let's change that. Let's talk about it. Let's not, because like you shouldn't be talking about, I'll say should there. Like, let's talk about that because it hurts me to hear you talk about that. But changes over time how I hear that.
There's all sorts of things I catch now. Look, I can read my journals from a few years ago even and go, holy cow, I can't believe I was talking about myself like this. So there's, of course, negative self-talk, and not that I'm perfect at that, but there's a lot of other things too, right? Language is powerful, to Omega Pyro's point here. And there's also, I do my best to not cast spells on myself that I don't wish to be subjugated to.
I like
Even,
casting spells as the term for it, by the way. It's really
yeah,
nice. Yeah.
well, it's true, right? These are spells. So the first one I eliminated was about 6 years ago. I was the guy that picked me up from the airport to drive me to rehab. I was talking about something, and I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm really bad at this. And he said to me, I've stopped saying that. And I start saying, I'm working on it. And I thought it was so dumb when he said it. I was like, who cares? What are you talking? Who fucking cares? And I would say that when I meant it, right? Like, yeah, I'm, you know, currently this is a challenge, but I'm working on it. And I would go, and I am working on it. And all of a sudden, this box of Chris is bad at this. Like these are like these strong walls of like, this is how it is. I am bad. That is what I am. I am bad at that. All of a sudden, those walls start to loosen a little bit and go, oh, I don't. It's like I don't need to be bad. That's not
No.
not me as such. That's just a bad. That's just like a habit I've picked up, right? And now all of a sudden I can expand and play a little bit more. And that was the first one. And I would say, yeah, and I'm working on it. And I'd be like, and I'm working on it.
You
And I was.
are. Yeah.
Another one that I found to be true and empowering that I eliminated about 6 years ago was, yeah, he made me feel bad. He made me mad. He made me upset. She made me this, and I go, hold on, nobody makes me anything. My emotions are uh, blossom from an internal state. I am creating the emotions. No one else has a string to me that can go, and now you're mad. Now you're sad. I don't feel anything without my own permission. And so I started to say things like, um, you know, you know, after the conversation, I was mad, right? And then I stopped. I got rid of the idea of I am mad, I am angry, I am sad,
Right.
I am happy. It's like I am not those things. Those are feelings I'm having, and it's experience I'm having. So then it became after the conversation we had, I experienced anger, right? And so now I am no longer identifying as the emotion. I'm no longer outsourcing my own experience, giving it to someone else, giving them strings to just pull me along, saying you get to decide my emotions, and I am my emotions. It's now something happened, and my experience of this, I felt anger, and I'm no longer controlled, captivated by the emotion. It's an experience that I am having, right? And so it reframes my entire experience of the world now just through my language.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a huge one. I think learning to use the I've noticed I'm feeling this, which was another uh Sarah David. Sarah David uses that. She she studied and coined emotional agility, which I think is super. It's super hot. It's super hot. She was studying this for 30 years when like we were born. So like I can't wait to send you her stuff. Um but she had a lot of the same struggles of like being young and being told emotions were bad, emotions are good, and then like she was a kid and had to deal with like a lot of really heavy shit really early on, and she kind of came to the similar conclusions of that, but that kind of like loosening up of those things, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because ultimately, we're kind of living in a story, right? And when you realize that you're the author of the story, you're allowed to sort of change the story you're in based on the mental framework you give yourself, right? Even one of the ones that I um, have been working on for a while is eliminating the word try. I very rarely use the word try. It's been replaced with I do my best to. I do my best to not cast spells on myself. Because even the idea of trying is just a mental loop. As long as you're trying to do it, you're just trying to do it. It's not doing it, it's just trying to do it. So I'm creating that reality. As I say try, I'm just, okay, if you want to just stay in this loop of trying, you'll just try and you'll try and you'll try and you'll try. When I say I'm doing my best to, it it speaks that out into existence, to going, yes, that this is what I'm doing. I'm doing my best to do this, and
Mm.
that's all I can do. Right? Is my best, as opposed to being caught in the loop of trying. Learning to speak aloud and hearing from others can be very constructive. Yeah, and so to your point earlier, when I hear this stuff now and I hear people beat themselves up, one of the things I hear a lot uh, is people qualifying themselves to me, right? You say something um, like, hey, this might sound cheesy, but
Oh yes,
uh,
yeah.
but I really appreciate everything you've done. It's like, that's not fucking cheesy. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that with me. And you don't need to qualify yourself to me, because we're all, it shields against that vulnerability, right? To go, you might not like this, but I'm sorry to bother you, but let me just be small and hope I don't get hit for what I'm gonna say. It's
Yeah.
like, no, it's okay. Um, you're allowed to be bold in life, and you're wherever you're at. So whatever. But these are sorts of things I'll tell people, like, hey man, you don't need to qualify yourself to me. You're allowed to just be genuine with me in all moments. It's okay. You have my permission. Give yourself your
Yeah.
permission to do
Yeah,
that.
you got to give yourself permission so you don't have to be small. I run into that quite a bit with people, especially on like even just talking to people on Schmoly Dans, on extra spicy external sites, just wanting to buy photographs, or just on exclusive sites, or just when people talk to me, they want to make themselves small, and I tell them not to. Because I feel like if people have a request, or people want to engage and they want a message and they want to just say hi, or they just want to say, hey, do you sell 8 by 10s? Or, hey, I just wanted to see how your day was, which is sometimes all people want to ask. They want to make themselves small. Hey, I'm sorry to bother you. How was graduation? What? You just wanted to ask me about something I did that's cool. You're taking time out of your day to ask me how. That is so nice of you and so kind. Stand up and puff your chest out, but your arms big. Like, you don't have to be small. I hear that a lot.
Well, this is
Yeah.
the threat of intimacy
It's
here.
it's very threatening to be vulnerable
Right.
because
It's
you're
what it is.
showing your bellies.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Again, the human animal in you is going like, oh no, like, ouch, I'm open, I'm exposed. Ah. Um, and we all have these different parts that we go, I'm exposing this of me. Please be delicate. Please be careful with me. And I think that's all we want from each other. I really think this. a lot that all we want from the people around us is like for people to go, hey, you're okay. You know, you're good. You have my approval. You're worthy of love, basically. In various ways, it takes various forms, it wears various costumes. But that's all we want is for the people around us just to go, hey, you're good. And then so I can go, I'm good. Yeah, I'm okay. I don't need to keep putting on a show for you guys. I don't need to do anything else to impress you. I don't need to, do a show to show my worth and to go, look, I'm valuable. Keep me around. Don't destroy me. Don't excommunicate me from the tribe. I'm one of you.
Yeah.
I think that's all we want, man. And I do my best to be aware of it, and I'm not good all the time on it. Sometimes I see myself and how I act, and I go, show up better in the world, man. You can. But sometimes I do my best to really to really see people, to the best of my abilities, so they just sort of feel safe, so they don't have to feel like they have to put on a show for me anymore and put on that costume, put on that character that we all tend to put on for the world. The one that's a combination of all our coping mechanisms to get our needs met. And and if this character, I think people like this character I've created. If I keep doing this dance, I think enough people will like me. So it's okay. Let it go. It's fine. Just breathe. You're safe. Like let your nervous system know it's all safe. There's no danger here. You're fine.
And I think that the more you are, which is something that I always say here and whenever I'm live, but especially on the threat, I'm constantly reminding people that like no one's going to be more you than you. Definitely be you because that's special. Like be the most you can be, and like you don't have to do this show because like you're accepted, you're in, like we're all on the same team, and we're all on the same team, and like you don't have to do the show, you can relax here, and like you're
Yeah.
good, because like I want to get to know you as you are. Just be you. Like you don't have to do, we don't have to do charades. Anyone in the chat can ask any questions as they are. Some people will say sorry here before they ask questions. I'm like, nope, that's why we're here. We're here. We're here casual. I don't know, no shirt, no shoes, no problem. We don't have to have a sign here. We're all good. But I prefer that people are who they are and start to have that conversation as soon as possible. Because I think, well, that's just the most unique thing in the world, right? Our own, figuring
And
out our own story.
yeah, oh for sure. But the fear is I open up and you take that opportunity to just drive a spear through my heart, right? You reject me as I have the courage to be vulnerable. That's the fear. And that's the fear we all walk around with on a certain level. It's so much of the motivating factor, I think, behind 99% of interactions. You know, um, yeah, and it's sad, but we all do it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think like that was one thing that it, while I'm probably in my life I have been too vulnerable at times, for sure. I couldn't see it any other way. So I chose this route because I took the leap over and over and over, and I know what it is to be completely vulnerable and have anything happen on the other side. And I can't see it. I can't see not taking that risk again, as painful as it can be, because it's so worth it every time, no matter what, that I couldn't risk not being vulnerable. Because every time I was vulnerable, even when it didn't work out, like, a fresh lemonade in the summer, it was still so worth it, that it outweighed the pain, because I learned so much about, well, everything, but me and everything, and me and everything, and the oneness of me and everyone, that I I couldn't just watch others around with the same kind of struggle, because we all struggle, right? It does get hard. It's not like it gets easier necessarily, but in one way it does, because like once you've done it, there is that trepidation. There's that risk that you don't want to do it again. Like I've been vulnerable before, and like I couldn't possibly be vulnerable again. Like I did that once and I never want to do that again, and like that's there, right? Like that red escape button is there, but like for me it's hard to understand, and I'll say that even though that's vulnerable for me, because I'm the first to be like, I understand. That's my how I want to understand everything. For me that's hard to understand, so I offer myself up in a platform like this for everyone to also share, so I can understand. Because once you see how much love is on the other side of vulnerability, and how much you love, like how much you're capable of, and then what you can do, and you see yourself, like that's really a gift too. You see what other people can do, and like sure, if it doesn't work out, it's okay. It's okay, because you see how much love is there. And that, like, why wouldn't you want to do that, even if a little better or different circumstances, or you got to keep trying, because you wake up the next day, it's not over.
Yeah, that sort of vulnerability takes a lot of courage, certainly, and I think it takes a lot of self awareness too. You know, it it's a lot of life's journey is to parse out. For me at least, I think this is true, is to parse out the character that you're playing, right? To know, yeah, to parse out when I'm putting on a show, when the script is running, as opposed to when I'm just here in the moment and being, I'm just being, and what's coming out is what's flowing out, and it's not part of the script. The things that I say all the time, it's not said with a desire for a certain outcome, an attachment to like, well, if I say it like this and if I act like this, then people will think that, right? And that stuff is so ingrained in us. It's so built in us. It's like these are deep, like somatic programs that are in us. These aren't intentional things even necessarily. I mean,
Yeah.
certainly we intentionally manipulate too, but on a subconscious level, we we manipulate because these are the coping mechanisms, the programs that our body has in it, that it made in order to get its needs met from an early point in life. And so these things are running all the time. So for me, even a breath like that is a pause to take me out of the danger of running into a script I already have, into the things I've said a million times before, into the sound bites that I go to just like be here in the moment as authentically as possible. But it does take self awareness. I mean, you know, I was in a relationship from the time I was like 22 to 28. 6 years. And it dawned on me maybe a couple months ago. And we were engaged and everything. And it dawned on me a couple of months ago. It's like, oh, I've never seen her. And she's never seen me because I never allowed it. I didn't realize it back at the time. I thought it was in a good relationship. Of course it wasn't. It was extremely unhealthy. But
Like,
she was dating my coping mechanisms and I was dating her coping mechanisms. We've
wow.
never seen each other. We've never, like we dated for 6 years. I have never like looked at her and gone, oh, the I see you. The light and love within me sees the light and love within you. However you want to say that. C capital S, like the Avatar movie.
Yeah.
You know?
Like to like have that be with moment with her.
Yeah. And I was completely unaware of it. So it takes vulnerability, takes a certain level of self awareness to get past your own armor. And this is what, when we talk about intimacy and like, oh, you only, can be as intimate with others as you are with yourself. It's like, yes, this is why. Because if you don't know yourself, all you are dealing with is your own coping mechanisms. And that's all, like, you fool yourself. I find this to be right now, the most fascinating thing about people is how good we are at hiding from ourselves. Like, you wouldn't think it's possible. You wouldn't think that, like, I can hide things from myself so deeply that I have no idea that they're even hidden. And when I do realize that something's hidden, I can't find where I put it. Like, you wouldn't think that's possible. But in some sense, we are fractured. Like, there's multiple parts of us. And our journey is to bring it into union. And that means the same thing as learning to love myself. It means the same thing as embodying my wholeness. It's integrating all parts of myself into one thing where I can see myself and I'm not putting on a show even for me.
Yeah.
Of course, yeah. It's sometimes it's more about the journey than the destination. I don't know if there is a destination. I have no idea.
I
Right?
think I think it's the journey. I think focusing on the journey itself gives you more elation.
Yeah. I don't know if there is a destination as such because we experience in concurrent moments. Right? There's no like it's this moment. It's this moment's gone. The next one's born.
Yeah.
So it's perpetual. Even if you were to take a view of reality as like a spiritual evolution from this life onto another one, onto another one, I'm not sure there's ever even an end to it, or if it's an asymptote and you never reach that full reunion, that full union with the one. I'm not sure. So I think it must be viewed like a journey. The destination is only so, like, the idea of a destination is just a conceptualization to give one aim, but the destination just as they say in Masters of the Universe, every doorway, every destination is but a doorway to another, right? It's
Yeah,
like
that's it. Yeah.
there's no like, oh, I got it. It's like, no, you're going here. Yeah. So it's a constant evolution of self awareness and of integration to become unified with yourself. And as you unify with yourself, you see the oneness that underlies reality in all things. And I learn to love myself, which means I learn to love others, and I learn to love where I am, and I learn to love the 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 place that I'm at and the nature around me and all of it. To me, love is the acknowledgement that that of the unity that underlies all things with the appreciation of the duality, right? I understand, Christina, that you and I are one fundamentally. We're different fingers on the same hand, just experiencing ourselves as fingers when really we're just a part of this whole body. I I know that if I treat you as though we are part of the same thing, that is love. But I don't. It's not a love and like, oh, I want to consume you. Like we're one, and I'm going to eat you, and you just become just totally part of me. It is an acknowledgement of the oneness with an appreciation for the uniqueness, and it goes back to a bit of what I was saying, at the very beginning. This is how reality manifests. The non-dual manifests itself in duality. The unity manifests itself in multiplicity, and there's no other way for it to work. That's how limitlessness works. Limitlessness has no limitation, even the limitation of not having limits. Isn't that wild? Isn't that wild? Think about that for 1 second. Limitlessness has no limitations, not even the limitation of having no limitations. So it can experience itself with limitations. That's how limitless it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can't control the cards you're dealt, just how you play them. Or as Kenny Rogers says, every hand's a winner and every hand's a loser. And the best you can hope for is die in your sleep. Really? That's the best you can hope for, Kenny Rogers?
Kenny Rogers, my Lanta. Yo, Kenny Rogers, what's up?
So,
yeah.
Which is all to say that being authentic and being vulnerable, it takes a certain amount of self-awareness, which is ultimately intimacy with oneself. So get to know you, and then you'll be allowed to have deep connections with others, right?
Yeah. And I think looking at things in, like, today, as I find, just allowing more and knowing that the journey, like putting it in a journey perspective, since that's the language we're using today, right? Like, just looking back at wrestling for 15 years, that's a journey. And like what I'm doing now, tomorrow, what we're all doing, like however long we're gonna do it, if I set points, those points are just for me. Now, should I remain healthy and we're all like, this is gonna, I live till 900, right? I just make a point and I set a goal and then I live the next day. Or when you would write and do all these things and you'd prep for WrestleMania, the next day would happen and you'd be prepping for WrestleMania. Like, it would just continue to go. So like, well then, and then how do you, as they would say in ethics, right? Like, then how do you live a good life? Then what is a good life? Then for me, that would mean exactly what you're saying, is build around your journey and your relationship with yourself and relationship with others and the conversations that we're having within ourselves, and more of the doing of being present, and also all of the in between that we've discussed kind of helps with those goals not being like the be all end all. Like, I could get a job tomorrow that gets me, it's the $1 million job I want, but that's like one day, and like that's great. But if I continue to do those things that hold high meaning, and I continue to foster within myself my intimate relationship and my vulnerability, and foster those relationships with others, then like the job's a great thing I can celebrate and not hinge my worth and my happiness and like all of the deep meaningful things that like need to stay in here. I don't hinge it on those moments. Then I can just enjoy those moments and I don't like hinge life on it. And I think having a healthy separation from that would allot us a happier life overall, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, but it is the what comes up for me is the balance, right? It's like a balance of like of no, like the ground you stand on to me has to be something like everything's okay, like this moment is perfect. It's like that's the ground you have to stand on. However, because we experience life through the passing of time, it's like, okay, everything's perfect now. Well, now what? It's like, well, you got to do something, and so it's you have to have the ground of being settled. You have to have a foundation there, and then the doing. Everything's not contingent on that. It's not contingent on what I grasp and what I gain and what I achieve and all this stuff here. Because if I am my successes, then I am my failures, and then I view myself as my worthiness being contingent of circumstances, as opposed to the ground of I'm worthy and I am whole just now,
It's
no
just
matter
now. Yeah.
what. It's
Right.
like beingness is good. I am good. I am whole. You know,
Yeah.
um,
Hey, Mr. Darcy.
Mr. You know, Jimmy, talk about your ideas y'all have during your matches with BJ Whitmer. Boy, that was so many years ago.
Ooh.
I remember I came up with the idea. The big one that I came up with was the big one. The one I remember is uh, people would do like the hockey fight spot, and I used to have an 8-inch nail, and I came up with the idea if we would do a hockey fight spot where we both have nails, and so we did that in the cage match that we had in boy, it's like March of 2007, big blow off for our feud, and he hits me with a spike. I hit him with a spike. He hits me with a spike. I hit him with a spike. He hits me. I hit him, and then all of a sudden we're doing this, and the whole place just really rumbled. I remember the night. I remember where I was when I came up with that idea. Oh, that'll be good, and it was good. Um, BJ always pushed me to my limits. The one thing that didn't happen in our the barbed wire match had to be the end. All right. Yeah. Well, so the barbed wire match was for IW Mid South. So our feud in Ring of Honor culminated in the steel cage, and the plan was always for the steel cage. They used to have these platforms they would put up in the corners of the cage, so you could do spots like off of the top of the cage. And so we had done a couple power bomb spots early on in the feud. One where we were both on the top rope in Detroit, and he goes for the power bomb into the ring. We slip backwards, and it's like this crazy fall. If you've never seen it, if you're familiar with our stuff, you probably have, because it was freaking insane. If you look up BJ Whitman's famous power bomb, like you'll see me almost die. And then we did another one where he power bombed me into the crowd off the top rope, which was wild in New York City. And so the plan that we had for the blow off in the cage was we were going to put the platform on top of the cage in the corner, and he was going to go for the power bomb off the top of the cage into the ring, and I was going to give him a super rana, and that was going to be the finish. And the day we got there, the platforms wouldn't fit on the cage. The wood was too warped, which was kind of a relief. I was super scared of doing the spot. Um, Wait, I thought it was a mishap. Yeah, the one in Detroit was a mishap. The one in Detroit, it was supposed to be he goes for the power bomb in the ring. I give him a rana into the ring. And then you can watch the video. His foot slips backwards on the cloth that covered the turnbuckle in between the pad. His foot slips backwards, and we're up and then we're down. It's like one of the craziest bumps like ever in wrestling, and I was completely fine. I was totally okay, and it goes up on Twitter like once a year or something. Someone will post a GIF of it, and people be like, "That was so stupid. Then why would you do something so stupid?" And it's like, dude, we freaking slipped.
Yeah, yeah, like we slipped.
Yeah, yeah, it
Oh
was
my god.
terrifying.
Yeah,
It
seriously. It's tradition.
tradition. Yes, people not to know what happened and like go like these guys are so dumb, and then other people going, oh, they just slipped. Um, Definitely a capsule of time. Yeah, man. The first time I saw it was when I got the tape of it. That was VHS, I think, back then. Still, and I saw it. I was like, oh crap! I almost died. I had no idea it was so bad until I saw it on video. And I
Oh
was like,
my
oh wow,
god.
that was actually really
I
scary.
have to
Um,
rewatch it. I know I've seen it, but
oh my god,
I have to rewatch. I know I've
it's
seen it.
it's
Just need
seriously
a
one of
refresher.
yeah, it's one of the wildest things. I mean, people do
Yeah.
like intentionally like, dumb stuff, like the cage of death sort of stuff, where you're going through glass off the
Yeah.
15 feet, 20 feet of stuff. But this was just like one of the straight up sickest, dumb, unintentional, scariest spots of all time.
Accident.
Yeah.
Just accident, whoops. Just
But it's like it it was the start of our feud too. Like it's this moment that just like, all right, let's go. I just started doing like the Battle to Lacey stuff, and so like I have this new gimmick with this new song, and me and BJ were trying to have this really good match, and then we have this moment that I was fine. He broke his ankle. He's all right. That created such a different feel, because we had the thing where we slipped, and then in New York City a couple months later, we're on the top rope and he power bombs me over the guardrail and he jumps with me into the crowd. It's just also just like awesome, but super safe. And so then at that point, people knew, like, you just don't know what's going to happen with these guys. So we would go to the top rope and just tease stuff, and people would go, "Oh my God, is death going to happen now?" It's like maybe. Yeah.
Oh.
I'm still alive. To all the people there, they're like, "These guys are stupid. Their careers aren't going to last." It's like, yeah, bro. I can still put on tights and play fights. I'm fine.
Yeah, you can still put on tights.
Yeah. I don't much anymore. It turns out I can be more successful with my mind. So.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, when was the last time you wrestled?
I did a 10-day tour up in Canada about a month ago. We're supposed to be 10 days in a row. One of the days got canceled in the midst of it because of a death in the town. But yeah, nine days almost in a row. Yeah, I can still do it. I don't want to do it at a high level anymore. These guys are so damn good. It's like, yeah, that's okay. You got to be super good. I'm gonna go wrestle at this in Forest, Manitoba, and all these little towns in Western Canada.
I love it.
Yeah.
I think about it. I'm not quite done. Done for now, but not quite done. You know how it is.
Wrestling's interesting. Like, speaking of the threat of intimacy, something that comes up for me, like with wrestling and in my stuff, is I find wrestling to be what do I call it? It's like intimacy from a safe distance. It's like you can have all of me as long as there's a guardrail in between us and I'm playing a character. You have my soul. Like I'll bear it all out in the ring. I'll bear out with my character, with the thing. And then, but as long as there's the separation, I'm on a platform and I'm in this costume.
That's perfect.
I wanted to know how RH got the plates for this smacking of the guardrail. Oh, those metal guardrails, probably you're talking about. Yeah, those were cool. They made a great noise. Like you would hit them, and they made a great noise. Except like the tops of them were like super sharp, and a couple times guys got like huge gashes on them. But those were, yeah, they visually look cool and they sounded great when it hit them. Except they were like razors on the edges of them. So watch out.
Yeah, there is something. Oh. Alfie?
Maybe. I mean, he might have been like sleeping, going.
Oh, I was like, oh.
Sometimes he makes noises like when there's cats in the neighborhood.
Oh, yeah.
There's one cat he likes that he'll just go and like hang out by when he comes out. But I've seen like 5 different cats, and like if a new one shows up, he gets upset. He's
don't know him. They got to go to the meetings.
Yeah.
Just show up and be a new cat and just like not go to the meetings.
You got to be initiated.
Yeah, you got to register.
Yeah.
So that everybody knows who you are. And you got to bring for the potluck.
Yeah.
New cat in town, you can't show up empty-handed. Those are the rules.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what comes up for me with wrestling sometimes. It's just like, it's like, well, how can I just be so open as a performer? And just in real life, it's like, how about we just keep an arm's distance between us? It's like, oh, it's because wrestling is like, yeah, I'll be vulnerable as long as like it's from this safe distance with us. But it did give me an outlet to do that, and it's weird to think about sometimes that to find such like a full expression of myself while playing a character. And and we're all playing characters every day of our life. This is what I've sort of been talking about. This idea that we do play characters. They're less intentional characters, I suppose. Um, but yeah, that's how that's something that I found, that wrestling was something that I could be in the moment in. Right? It's this it's this balance of chaos and order. It's like where you know what you're doing, but you don't know exactly what's going to happen, and you just don't have the mental space to go, oh, what are we doing? Oh, my girlfriend's mad at me. Oh, I'm not making enough money right now. Like none of that can happen. Partly because you're embodied too, right? You're out of your mind and you're into your body, so you don't have um, that normal mental rumination going on. But that's partly what I found to be so alluring about it, was just performing and just going, yeah, man, I'm here. Oh, I'm here now.
Yeah. Yeah, it felt like a very like a release for me, cuz like I'm very comfortable being vulnerable, but I think it was a nice way for me to try and put into physicality what I can with words. Cuz it can be very difficult to like try to have conversations if I found that not many people speak like me. So I was running into that a lot during wrestling. So I tried to find people to talk to, and I wasn't finding a lot of people. But if I could wrestle, and I can like emit, and I can act, and then we're all doing the same things with our bodies, then that's a language. It's kind of like sharing music, but it was performative. So I was able to express a lot of like, well, this is how I am. Since like since I come from somewhere else, this is how I am. And then everyone's like, oh, right, okay, yeah. Oh, there she is. There she is. And she's got a
Yeah,
dog.
that, and that's what art is, I think, right?
Yeah.
Fundamentally, which is an expression of self, which is kind of what we all yearn for in this way. And I find it to be find it to be spiritual, right? I think I've thought about this, and maybe there's an answer for it that I haven't thought of, but it's like, what's the evolutionary benefit of art? It's like, what's the evolutionary benefit of self-expression, of these sorts of things? It's like,
Huh.
it doesn't seem to be a matter of survival, right? It's deeper than that. It's an innate desire for expression and for creativity as the sorts of beings we are, more fundamental than the animal um, that humans are, and I find that to be interesting.
Yeah, I agree with that. I find, well, I mean, that's a huge topic with like art and music. I think it's all very necessary because it's another in. It's another in. How we learn about ourselves is just a matter of what door we want to open. Not everyone, not everyone is going to pick the self inquiry door first, but we get there eventually. Some people are provided with like ask yourself questions. Some people draw first, and they draw and they draw and they draw and they get to a point, and then they ask themselves why, and that's the question. You just have to draw it out first. I think art and music are and all these expressions of that, just creative outlets, and they
Yeah,
all help us find each other.
it's the sort of creatures we are, right? It's the sort of beings we are, and I find this to be true. I find this, you know, who knows what anything means, but
Yeah.
at least one component of, when people say we're made in the image of God, at least one component of it is is we are these like creators, right? That's like part of what we do is like obviously whatever sort of being or whatever, however this came to be, the nature of it is comes from proclivity to create, right? And we're these little microcosms of that same that hold that same proclivity, which in some sense makes us unique. Now, AI is coming along. It's yeah, I think that's there's an existential crisis coming up pretty soon here as AI can make songs and art and write essays and books like in a second. That people are going to start to rub up against this idea of going, oh, I thought we were special that we can create like this, and now computers can do it so quickly.
I don't, and I just think that like that's still gonna like as wonderful as that is in its own way and its own thing. It's still that we as a people created AI to create things. Um, I don't think it's going to stop creating in and of itself. I think creators are always going to create, and if people decide, it's just like getting on the ride. If people don't want to ask themselves questions, or they don't, and they were opting out before, or they were avoiding facing themselves before, this is just, they're going to avoid the opportunity that AI can present just by the same token that it can be used for avoidance. If I do everything on my own here. Let's say I'm doing all the activities, and I see AI, but I really like to draw and write. But AI is very helpful. Well, I'm not going to ask AI to then draw for me. I like my doodles. They're not great, but I like them. We'll have a live about it. It's going to be great. I'm going to show you all the muscles I draw. It's going to look like marshmallows. But I'm going to ask AI to help me, like, do something I'm not great at to help me organize. And then that will be that because I'm still a creator. But it's going to take the extra effort for people because it's another
Yeah.
distraction.
Right.
So I think initially, just like everything else that gets introduced ever to any civilization, there's going to be like one way and then an overcorrection, and then we're going to balance out eventually.
Hey,
Like,
dude.
oh, well, we're going to do all this stuff, and then some people will be like, wait, no, I enjoyed that, and I didn't do that anymore because now, I've asked AI to do my art for me, but I realize I enjoy it. And so there might be people that do that, and some might create with AI, and I think there's room for that because they'll find their own, you know, and eventually I think
Take over the world.
it'll be fine. I think it'll be
Well,
fine. You know
yeah, I
why?
mean,
Because there's still going to be people that want to create the way they want to create, and some people are going to figure out they want to use AI for different things that aren't what they like, their passions. Do you know what I mean?
don't you know that this ends with AI versus humanity, the organic life versus the inorganic life? This is the war is coming, man. The
I've
war is
seen
coming,
Westworld. I've seen
right?
Westworld.
Seen
I've
Westworld, seen the Matrix. It's like this is
I've
what
been,
happened.
but that's only from one lens, from a lens with opposing, and from a lens that comes from fear base.
Skynet is just waiting. With
I know
Skynet is
Skynet was the first, right?
what's that from? Minority Report, right? Isn't that Skynet?
Skynet, the original. Are we talking Terminator?
Oh, is that Terminator? Terminator. All right.
The first of the firsts. Well, there's probably first before that first, but first for our generation, I think.
Omega Pyro said to lay down who we are for everyone, maybe to learn something about ourselves, to be understood by others. Could be so many things. Could be all of it. Talking about creating. It's
Yeah,
like, yeah,
creating. Yeah.
I'm not sure. I would lay that down. Like, I don't think. I think it's reductionist to lay that at the feet of like an evolutionary like adaptation. Yeah, and a function of adaptation. I think um, that's reductionist. But that's just where I'm at.
I'm trying to think. of other creatures. I mean,
Have you ever seen?
that's
There's
scary. I was
there's like
like,
a fish and stuff. Have you ever seen this?
what?
You know, talking about there's like, man, it's awesome. If you probably just go to YouTube and put in like fish makes art. There's a video of like this fish that in the sand under the sea makes this like crazy like geometric pattern. I think it's to impress the ladies. I think that's what it's for. Or that's what they.
Ooh,
It's super cool.
that
It's
fish has
super.
got game.
Have you seen it?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, you should. I bet if you just look up, fish makes art, you'll get some cool fish art videos. But like one of a fish being underwater and going in the sand and creating this whole thing, man. It's like a mandala, basically. Oh,
Whoa.
shut up, Tucker. So here you go.
Oh, oh, oh.
You just put it in the.
Hang on a second. Let me get this. Let me get this up. Okay, I'm gonna put it over here, and then I'm gonna do
Puffer fish constructs. Unfortunately. Yeah, this guy, man.
screen capture.
Are you putting it on here?
I'm gonna try. There you go. Hold on. Where's my mouse? Where did my mouse go? We're gonna make it so we can still see the chat here. Hawaii is what I definitely want to live in.
Yeah.
I want to go visit.
Yeah. The problem with Hawaii is just like you're sort of at the mercy of whatever's going on there, right? Um, you know, when all the COVID stuff was happening, it's like you go, oh, it's like you're sort of cut off from the world. You know, whatever sort of restrictions they have there, it's like that's what's happening. There's no, you know, at least in the continental 48, you can if you don't like what's going on in one place, you can go a different place, and so it's like, oh man, you're really at the mercy of whatever's happening when you're that far out from the rest of the world. So that's one of um, the dangers of being just on an island, right? It's like if you don't like it, it's like, oh, you're stuck. You know?
Yeah, I can hear that it's hard to like live out there with like imported stuff and you're kind of stuck out there. But I definitely want to go and visit,
Yeah,
do more travel. I think
cool.
I don't know
Yeah.
how in current times, but I definitely want to go and see more things.
Yeah.
I think the last time I went scuba diving was Aruba. To whatever that was, snorkeling. It wasn't scuba diving. It was
Wait,
snorkeling. It was on the
yeah.
tip of my tongue. That wasn't it. Yeah, it was snorkeling. But I definitely
Yeah.
would want to go scuba diving and see the fishes.
Yes,
Go
it's
down and see
way,
them.
way different experience.
Way
Yeah,
different, I can imagine.
you know, the salt water is getting in my snorkel, and it's like I was so fat and mad. Like,
Oh my gosh. It was wild. It was pretty out there though. Yeah,
yeah,
it was pretty.
yeah. It wasn't exactly a well planned trip either.
We did the best we could
Did the best we could with what we had,
with what we had.
where I was at. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Pulled it off somehow though, which was amazing that we pulled it off with what we had.
Barely. I remember
Yeah.
doing acid on the beach in Aruba, and
Not bad.
all the stars were different colors. It was cool.
That was really pretty.
Uh,
Yeah. What would you say? Oh God, we didn't even talk about like hallucinogenics and how they can help people. We didn't even talk about that. I do believe in like helping with like microdosing and but I don't have any of the science on me right now to back it up. But I've done microdosing a little bit with teas and shrooms and things just to kind of when I need to sit with myself.
Sorry, with
like
tea.
shroom tea.
Oh,
A
gotcha.
little
Yeah,
little shroom tea, little where
yeah.
you're not like gone all day. You have like a little
Sure. Yeah, you
brings the
know.
shoulders down from your ears.
Yeah, microdosing is, and again, and this is my experience. Nobody's recommending anything here,
Nope.
but you should totally do it. Um, Microdosing, yeah, I found that to be. I do it sometimes, just to, like I said, let your shoulders down. And what I've found is I'm much more of an antenna than, the idea of microdosing is you're taking such a small amount that you don't consciously feel it. You're not tripping. You're not like going wild or anything. But I found that it opens my channel up a bit, and I can be more of an antenna creatively. I work in a creative business. I work in the creative side of wrestling, right? And when you're trying to create from the mind, sometimes it's like you're taking the external world and trying to figure out a way to piece it together, right? It's like if I'm creating from up here, I'm coming up with ideas, or I'm seeing what's out here, and I go, if I move this here and I move this here, then I have an idea, right? And that's sort of in opposition to, I think, just opening yourself up and letting ideas flow through, where the ideas aren't yours, right? It's not a manipulation of what the mind sees. It's what you receive. And I find that with microdosing a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes I do it to literally just neutralize, and like that keeps me from the fringes. Just kind of helps
Yeah.
me like clear out the noise. Sometimes I feel like, oh, well, I know what I need, I know what I want, and I know the difference. Sometimes they line up, sometimes they don't. It
Yeah.
depends. You know what I mean? Sometimes they do something, and most of the time, what you need is also what you want in the end. So anyway, it's like, you have that conversation. I'm like, yeah, of course, that's really what I want because that's what I need. And sometimes just like a little bit of that can kind of clear the
For sure. I
sinuses.
mean, this is why I use psychedelics basically ever, right? I'm at the point where it's like once, I think I've done them like 4 times in the last year. So about once every 3 months, I sit down with myself and and it's a tool that I use to come back to myself a bit, to get out of the noise, because it can clutter up if you're not taking care of yourself. If I'm not taking care of myself, if I'm not meditating enough, if I'm not moving enough, the noise builds, right? The clutter just builds. And I found that psychedelics are a bit of a clearing most of the time. Most of the time, it's a nice little clearing to go, oh yeah, all this stuff that I'm worried about, it's all made up stuff, and I'm the one making it up. Why am I making up for me to experience anxiety over? I'm doing this to myself. Okay, good. And it's a reminder. It's a reminder that my suffering is an internal state that for some reason I choose to create for myself. Why do we do this to ourselves?
that was something else that you said recently about like um our own it was like our own boundaries preventing us from
Mm-hmm.
getting to the things that we need to do. But that was revolving fear. Was that around fear?
I don't know what I exactly said that about,
I
but
know I was
yes,
trying to.
certainly. I see pretty clearly sometimes how my life is completely created, or not completely, co-created through my choices and through my own beliefs. And I see the mental construct and going, oh, this is where the fear is, and so this is where reality puts the boundary. It's like they have to come together, like they have to show up at the same time. It's because my fear creates the container that I find myself in. So then I'm required then to move past my fears to to go past my own perceived limitations. Like I go, oh, it's impossible to do this. It's like, no, it's not impossible. That's where I've placed a fear here. I have a fear of coming up to this thing and what happens if I fail? What happens if this? What? And so I put a limiting belief there, and the limiting belief is the same thing as the fear. They go hand in hand, right? And so there's this fear that's blocking it where the limitation is. It's the same thing. And so the journey is to walk up to the fear, to walk up to the limitation, and to then move through it and realize that the limitation was of my own making through my own fear. Right? It's the same game. The game of overcoming the fears and letting go of limiting beliefs. They're the same. It's the same game.
What's an example, if you're willing to share, of like a limiting belief that you feel would be like a common or a more like a relatable one you'd be willing to share that you like went through?
I don't know if I can think of one specifically that I went through consciously, but in some real sense, and some of this might be controversial, so whatever, man, and it might not be correct. It's where my thought playground is right now. We get the life we think we deserve. That's really coming forward to me, and yeah, we get what we feel we deserve in all ends of things. Maybe that's not exactly right, but there's certainly at least a nugget of truth in there. And with that, if you just play with that a little bit, and you start to go, why do I think that I only deserve this? Why have I just sort of stopped here and go, oh, I deserve to be alone. Here I am in Georgia by myself. I don't know hardly anybody here. I made a couple friends-ish. It's like, why do I think I deserve to be alone? You're into that one, right? And some of the things they go, like even like financial stuff. There's a long time I felt like, oh, I'm only worthy of this much. I only deserve this much. And so I find that reality reflects that back to me. And when I've made bigger leaps through my finances, I see it as like, oh, yeah, no, that's when I decided that I'm worthy of this. And I've done the work too, but it's also when I decided that I'm worthy of getting the things I've worked for. And so it's something to think about. I don't know if it's in totality, but it really goes to the question of how much we create our own realities. That's really what the question comes.
Yeah, it's a limiting belief that's coming up for you because there's something there that can be possibly worked within yourself to give you more agility of like how you can do things, like how you can do things that you possibly want to do that you didn't think you could do, or maybe take more control over like, oh well, I'm in Georgia but maybe I didn't want to be in Georgia, I should think about that. Or it's giving you more playroom is what you're saying. It's giving you more opportunity.
Here's what I find. Here's what I find. I find that the more responsibility we take for our experience in total, like if I take absolute responsibility, if I just try that on for a second, and you don't need to keep it on, but try it on. Try on the idea that nothing's happening to me. Nothing is happening to me. That I am co-creating this experience that I'm having with the structure of reality, and that the structure of reality is good. And so everything that I feel as though is happening to me is is something that comes from inside of me. It comes from a belief inside of me. It comes from how my mind currently views things. That what I input into the world is then outputted to me, that shows up as the experience I'm having, and it's coming from me. And if I just try that on, again, something like this, okay, so I'm very alone here in Georgia. I didn't expect to be this alone, but I am. What part of me feels as though I deserve to be alone? That I don't deserve to have people close to me, that I don't deserve to have more people around me, that I don't deserve to have, a romantic partner, that I don't deserve to have close friends close by me. And what happens if I go into that space? I'll find answers, and I might not like them, but I'll find answers that then inform perhaps the decisions I've made that got me to this point. And then if I address those beliefs of why I deserve this, why I deserve to be alone, and allow those emotions to work through me, to move through me, I might find that I'm capable of making different decisions that give me a life that does have more connection, does have closer relationships, romantic relationships. I might find that if I ask myself the question with the idea that this is coming from me. And again, it's just something to try on. You don't have to take it all the way with you, because sometimes there's resistance that says, no, 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 this thing happened to me, and this thing is bad, and I don't deserve it. And yeah, maybe, and fair enough, bad things do happen. People are victimized. I'm not saying that's not the case, but if you try on for a second that there's a part of you that feels differently, you might find some answers in there. Yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, it does. I what I have found that because I understand, and then what I have found that I use in for trauma informed language, when things happen that are out of our control, that we can't, you know, we can't take the responsibility for certain things. There are certain things we just can't. In those moments where it feels like we're trying, because I do think there are people that do try to take responsibility for some of those things. It puts an unnecessary weight, or in any of the variant situations. I think the responsibility that we can take there to maintain this level of what can we do now, because there's also that feeling of helplessness. My experience to share with you in those moments where I want to be responsible for things, like I just can't be, but I need to do something, and I need to do something to then create something different, is then try to find a way to accept rather than take on. So it falls in the same tone. It just allows rather than take on, which which
Mm-hmm.
which allows for the compassion. So that way it provides a space for all of the encounters that we can't explain, and you know what I mean, like we can't nuance for all of the different versions and varieties. But I found that just a simple allowance of what we can account and other responsibility we can, and for the things and for the fucked up shit we can't erase, for the it's a quote in a song, and for those things that we can't nuance, but that we all know and we understand, for the allowance and acceptance to know that we are taking on responsibility now to love and nurture and foster what we do need, the strength to go forward and create the future we want for ourselves. That's how we go forward. That we have that empowerment now to then try and see what we can do.
Yeah,
That
and
all
again,
comes from that.
I certainly don't want to suggest that like people aren't victimized
Oh
and things
yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
That's not what I'm suggesting,
No.
and I'm certainly not. So that there's two frames that I think are in contrast, and one is responsibility, and one is blame. Like blame assigns like fault, and I don't really like that game very much. I think it's a bad game to play, to like finger point, to go, this is your fault, or even this was my fault, this happened to me, or
Yeah.
something like that.
I
That's a
find that
bad game.
just falls in a triangle. That's the victim
Right.
triangle. Just sits,
Correct.
and we can't get out of it. And no one feels
Correct.
good. It doesn't help anyone.
And
So
again, I'm not saying there's not victimization going on. That might just be inherent to the animal part of our humanness, right? As the spirit and animal, right? Part of our humanness,
mm,
the animal part, just might have victimhood built into it in some sense. It's only like a bit of an exercise, and I think it gets you further than you'd expect, right? Even the things we really don't want to think like, oh, this is impossible. This has nothing to do with me. It's like, yeah, try it on and see how it can how far it can get you. And again, it doesn't mean that's like your life and going, I'm responsible for all these things that happen to me. It's not
yeah.
saying it's just it's an exercise to try on to see how far it'll get you and what it can do for you. And I don't know, like it's like do we co-create our realities or not? It's like am I not a part of, do I not have a hand in everything that has seemingly happened to me? Haven't I not, like, isn't there, don't I have a role, even if it's not the main role, even if I'm not like a perpetrator of something, something awful? Don't I have a just a role in my life, in all of it? And I find that to be scary, but I also find it to be empowering to go, yeah, I have a hand in everything that that my experience has unfolded for me. Um, there's something empowering about that to me. Whether that's exactly true or not, I don't know.
Yeah. It's the fact that sometimes the role is the viewer and not the participant.
Yeah, yes. It's really a question I have, right? And I don't know the answer. Is to what extent we are responsible for our experience, right? It certainly seems to be a co-creation with the laws of reality, like with the structure of reality itself. Like the experience is co-created. The question is, to me, is it also co-created with other people, or are the other people, are you in my life because of me? And am I in my life? Am I in your life because of you? Do you know what I mean by that?
Is it the perception? Like, is it like, are you looking for like where the, yeah, where the line of responsibility is? So from what like where the camera angle is, or is it all? Because it can get a little bit. Hey, DJ Weed Pizza! Everybody say hey, DJ Weed Pizza's in the chat. My brother's in the chat.
What
Um,
up?
is it like? Because I guess I struggle with this, like a similar, like, right, like how far does our responsibility reach? Well, how far does our impact go, or how far are we responsible for? I think we're responsible for as far as we can impact. Irving Goffman. Everyone is a performer and everyone is a viewer, and life happens without their control because they're all the performer. It's not about being responsible, it's about being accountable. That's interesting. It's not bad. I mean, because in accountability, we find responsibility. In accountability, we're already willing to be responsible. Accountability is that sense of maturity within us to be like, yeah, I'm sorry, and yeah, I'm good for it, or yeah, let me help you with that. It does provide accountability, provides responsibility to that notion.
Yeah, I guess my question is it's an existential one, or an ontological one, which is to say how much of my experience is is because of me, and the answer might be all of it, but I'm not sure. Because it doesn't seem like it, right? It doesn't seem like it because it seems like other people play a role.
Uh,
Uh, all of it, yeah. That's what it seemed. That's what I think. Although it doesn't manifest itself that way because other people sort of are characters in our point of view story.
right, but because
But it,
everybody has different experiences and because everyone's also living very different lives, it's very hard. Right, you're just not in control of the outcomes. But it's very hard to have that, to say we are responsible for all of it, yet we're not in control of what family we're born into, where, what role we play, what socioeconomic status we have. We're not, whatever, what,
maybe, maybe, right? So it's like we don't know.
or, yeah,
We don't
or we plan that before we get here.
right. We don't know it. I don't know how. Like certainly, like it seems as though there's elements to life that are arbitrary. It seems as though there's elements to life that are luck. It seems as though there are elements to life that are unfair and unjust. And I don't know. Like if I just go down really, really deep, I just go, I actually think the structure of reality is fair and it's good, and my life is of my co-creation with the structure of reality itself, and the fact that you are in my life has to do with me, and the fact that I'm in your life is something that you co-created for
Yeah.
your life, and I'm just a character, a participant in your co-creation as you are with mine. It's not to dehumanize either of us. It's to say I think at the end of it, I think and it's more useful. I think the more responsibility I take on for my life, the more like useful it seems to become. Like the more adaptive it seems to become, right? Which makes it true in some sense. I don't know. Let's see what
I
says
think
in
it can
here.
be helpful. Omega Pyro, it's a tough question. Showing up at any location could be the reason for the whole experience, but who knows how many other people had to make choices that affected your choice to be there. Tucker, you're accountable for your actions, and you're responsible for your existence.
Yeah, yeah,
I think
yeah,
these can be helpful. Like, I think these are all helpful tools, like language tools.
yeah.
Like,
So it's a question
yeah,
from you.
pretty much. It's an open ended question because like
It is.
we're all trying it on.
Yeah, it is.
It's something I
And
constantly try. Like, how much am I responsible for? I'm trying. Maybe with too much, I take on. Okay, like, did I take on too much this time? Maybe. Okay, maybe less. Maybe more responsibility for me. Less responsibility. It's what I think. I think it's a case by case too.
it's responsibility up here and in here. It's my thoughts and my beliefs as well, which then manifest as my actions, and they
Yeah.
become crystallized into reality. So as I clean up some of this up here and go, no, I'm worthy. I'm worthy. I'm worthy. I'm worthy of this. And the more I embody it, the more I act upon it. And then that is then reflected back at me. And so then the appropriate like characters come into my life that foster that very belief that is subsequently reflected back to me by reality. I think that the confirm is coming from life itself being chaos. The universe lives in randomness. I don't think it does live in randomness at all. I don't. The conundrum, but the human existence has been framed by our society, and we can only perceive things within that society. It forms cognitive dissonance. I don't believe the world's chaos at all, and I don't think there's like what's the evidence of that? As there's so much structure to reality. I mean, there's so darn much. Just look out in the trees out in the yard and how it all grows, and watch how the animals are, and it's like it's not chaos. Like it all comes from an intelligence that underlies this whole thing. Yeah, I don't. I've heard of chaos theory. I'm not familiar with the ins and outs of it, but I don't see the world as chaos whatsoever. I mean, look, the people, the materialists that believe in there's no such thing as free will. It's all deterministic. Like the idea of determinism would say this is all order. That's all it is order. There's a chemical reaction at the beginning of time that then manifests itself. Had the blueprint for this moment right now, which I'm not a determinist, but I think there's a case to be made for determinism, although I think it's really, really wrong. But the case that can be made, the fact that there's such a strong case that can be made by it, lends itself to the idea that it's not chaos fundamentally. Of course, it's chaos and order together, but yeah, I find reality to be very ordered, actually, extremely ordered. Yeah.
Chaos theory states that within the apparent randomness of chaotic complex systems, there are underlying patterns, interconnection, constant feedback loops, repetitions, self similarity, fractals, and self organization. An example of chaos theory are weather patterns. We can usually predict weather patterns pretty well when they're in the near future, but as time goes on, more factors influence weather, and it becomes practically impossible to predict what will happen. It's an interdisciplinary area of scientific study and a branch of mathematics focused on underlying patterns and deterministic laws of dynamical systems that are highly sensitive to initial conditions. That is chaos theory.
I'd have to look up more.
Me too.
More to get a better understanding.
I covered it so long ago, I had to look it up. I was like, oh, definitions. Edward Norton Lorenz with a Z. I'll send you some stuff.
Yeah,
Fractal Foundation, very interesting.
So some of those are words I use a lot. So.
yeah. Some of these words are hot. They're hot off the press.
All the patterns up in the fractal. There are set of rules, but more parameters you add make it less stable.
Oh, so this was the theory for the movie that everyone told me that I would love, that I loved, about the bagel in the sky. Everything, everywhere, all at once.
Yeah.
Is that it? Everything, everywhere, all at once.
That's the name of a movie.
Yeah, that one.
Yes.
So that was kind of based off of chaos theory then. Did you get to see that movie?
I did not. No. I saw the Mario Brothers movie. Everybody liked it.
Oh, I thought Mario movie was like a very cute, comfortable, like I can put this on when I need like just a little something. It's a cute movie. It was cute.
I also saw Avatar 2, which I thought lacked a little soul. To me, I watched it and I go, was this movie just made by AI? is this like the first like completely AI generated movie where they just like
Did they have 6 fingers?
make a movie like the first
Like the
uh, Avatar, but
what
in
did you
water? Use these different story tropes, and you know, I'm sure they can make AI movies now. I mean, the fact that the AI technology all came out at once was like, yeah, they've had that
they've
for a
had
really
it.
long.
They
They
released that like an iPod.
just like all at once, all of a sudden, everybody's like, here's a
Look
bunch of
at
really
it.
good AI. It's like, yeah, you had that for about 50 years,
You
probably.
were
And
sitting on it.
yeah, yeah. There's
Like
the technology is wild now. I mean, if you've seen these like deep fakes and things like that, like you can't believe anything you see anymore because like
no.
you just yeah, we're getting to a weird place in society.
I'm excited. It's gonna be bananas. It'll even out, but you know what? I'm on the ride. I got on the Ferris wheel. Oh, a Zelda movie is in the works. Oh,
Fern Gully.
yeah, that's what I thought, Pyro. Thank
Just got back.
you.
Howdy. Just got
Spark
back from Spark
Joshi
Joshi
show.
show.
What is that?
Thank you, Viva. Thank you for the sub. I'm very excited about the alert box. You didn't get to see the full one, but it is Thor with a hermit crab shell with fire behind him and the Murder Train song from How I Met. So that's very exciting. I gotta put that up top. I think everything everywhere all at once would be a very good since you it's a very I think you would it's all I can say. That's all anyone told me, but I think that's a movie that you would enjoy digging into.
Heard Zelda got canceled because the flick leaked that they were
Oh, they did one of those? That would be silly.
Beetlejuice 2. I think Michael Keaton's in that,
If Michael
right?
Keaton is in it, then I'm okay.
I think,
If
yeah, I
he
think
is
so.
if he is in it.
I
I
worry some
worry
franchise. Oh, go for it. It's your show. Why am I reading
I
this?
mean,
Go for
hey,
it.
I'm fine. I worry some franchise movies that are like SNL anniversary specials where they become a series of cameos and applause breaks. I'm not where I love SNL, so I mean, I'm not mad about that. Oh, they're putting it on Netflix. Too much money after
She,
Mario movie. That's true.
she,
Uh, Tears of the Kingdom is the new Zelda. Have you played the new Zelda yet? This new
no.
Zelda's very good. It's a very good one.
I have a Nintendo DS. Is that one of these
That's one
things?
of those. That's one of those.
That's the latest one I have, and that's probably like, jeez, like 2008 or nine.
The anniversary specials are just a series of people showing up and people clapping that they showed up. Oh well, then
Oh,
yeah, that's I don't know. We'll celebrate everybody, but getting back to everything as we've taken a tangent away. I think chaos theory is a very interesting thing that we'll both probably dig into and talk about a little bit more um, amongst ourselves. I'm very fascinated by that. And I just want to say thank you for coming on and talking and being super vulnerable and opening up and sharing all of that really, really good information with us. So I just want to take a second there and appreciate you for all that.
thanks for having me, and thanks for making a platform to do this, to give a space for people to feel okay to do this, because as we all live in our bodies tensed up in this false fight or flight mode, it's necessary to have a space sometimes where it's um, that gives you explicit permission to go, hey, you're okay here. You don't need to put on the show. The show can you can close down the show for a minute and just be. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. This show here is for the non show. It's a show about
yeah.
non show.
Mm.
Welcome to the non show show. Hey, thanks, cool, awesome, dude. Well, as we wind down here towards the the bit is Loki. By the way, that's Loki humping my leg. Um, Oh yeah, look, Pyro, because you had your podcast.
Yeah, thanks, man. Yeah, I keep thinking about doing it again. But all I just think I've been thinking about it for since I stopped doing it, more or less. Um, all the stories in my head of like, oh, everyone's got a podcast, and what do I have to say that's important? What do I have to, what all those talking about limiting beliefs and stories we tell ourselves, and there you go. There are some of mine. Um,
Yeah, I understand, but at the end of the day, you know, everybody else isn't you.
in some sense they are, in some sense they aren't.
In some sense, they are, some they're not. But I had a great time on your podcast, and I hope that you restart it if you want to restart it. If that's something that you were thinking about, then I hope you restart it. Where can everybody find you and what you're going to be up to? What do you tell everybody to find you in Georgia?
In Georgia,
Just
yeah. On Tuesday and Wednesday mornings at Crystal Organic Farms, you can find me.
Yeah. What are you
Um,
doing at the farms?
just picking stuff, weeding stuff, you know, some grunt work, that sort of thing, a couple times a week. But I think that's I think my chapter here is about to come to an end. I think I'm about to make a move. So
Oh yeah.
uh, yeah, yep. I think so. That's what it looks like. So and I have a lot of stories about that, about like coming out here and um, the challenge that was and how much I rose to the occasion and how much I didn't and I'm doing what I can at least to um, anything worth doing is worth doing poorly, right? So I'm doing my best to give myself credit for doing something poorly but doing it.
Do you want to do you want to share one of those stories?
Just this, I came out here. I bought my first home ever, and
That's
in rural
big,
Georgia,
right?
where I know nobody. The home's not particularly big. The land is
The
big.
space, yeah.
It's almost, yeah, it's almost 7 acres, um, and to learn to garden or farm or homestead or something like that. And, um, you know, I didn't do it to the best of my abilities, and, as such. And there's a part of me that goes, look at you, you did this thing, and you bit off more than you could chew or more than you were ready for. And it's like, yeah. There's another part of me that goes, yeah, you but you did it. You did something, and you didn't do nothing. I've been volunteering at a farm 2 days a week for 9 months. I've got that on my resume of life now. Before it was mostly just like pro wrestling, pro wrestling, pro wrestling, pro wrestling, pro wrestling, pro wrestling. It's like organic farm work for a year. It's like, um,
Yeah.
it's something, and there's a lot of challenges that came up from this. Um, it's not even this as such. It's the circumstance brings out what's already in there, right? And I think it's that way with all of life, probably. It's like the challenges you face, you go, oh, this thing is happening in front of me. It's like, no, this thing just allows for the internal to become manifest, to go, oh, it's my relationship with the external thing, which is something that starts with me. It's fundamentally something with me. And so, yeah, so different challenges came up. I answered some of those calls better than others, and it's okay.
What's your favorite thing that you learned to grow or garden?
I don't know what I learned to grow or garden. I mean, it was honestly some of the best part of working on the farm was just doing it. there's like hard work is good for the soul, I think. And so, just being in the dirt and being dirty and sweaty after, 4 hours of work. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, 4 hours. I wasn't going a full day or anything.
Four
But
hours is good.
yeah, a bit of manual labor, which I've never really done in my life. It's always been performance and creative and stuff that was based on my ideas or my intelligence or my organizational skills or logistical skills or things like that. So it was an opportunity to get out of my comfort zone, and like there's nothing makes me feel more like a child than being in a completely new environment. I remember walking on the farm that first day, like I am a child. I know nothing about it. I took a blacksmithing workshop like last weekend, I
Oh
think.
yeah. How was the blacksmithing workshop? What was it
You want,
like?
you want to see what I made?
Yeah.
Hold on, one second.
Yeah, I want to see that. Oh my god. I forgot you took the blacksmithing. It's amazing. I want to do that so much. Who here in the chat would take a blacksmithing workshop?
So we made like these hook like racks. I
You
mean, they're
made
not.
hooks.
Yeah, hooks. They're like I made these the wrong way. They were supposed to all curve out. Like these are really like not nice. They're all like different lengths too. It kind of looks like
Yeah,
an
though you did it
art
though.
project, but it's like I'm gonna hang up these hooks, going like, yeah, I made that with my hands. I pounded some steel.
Yeah. Sup, I forged it.
Yeah, I forged it. I forged it. Yeah. So
Yeah,
yeah.
when are you going back? Like, when are you going to do that again?
I don't. I don't know when I'm moving, but I think I'm moving. So maybe I don't think so. Yeah, I'm gonna. My schedule's about to get pretty busy, so how much time I'm gonna have for blacksmithing workshops and bugging, but you know.
You can bring it on a team building day. Just bring a blacksmithing person to the.
I created art. If you want to call this art, yes, this is.
That
It's
is
like
art.
art.
You could
Like
definitely
art.
put your keys on that for sure.
Yeah, I
And
can
a
hook.
leash for Alfie. You know, when you go on your walks, your nature walks.
Mhm. He hates walking with a leash. He hates it.
It just goes down.
He just plops down. That's it.
That's great, though. That's awesome. That's
It's
awesome.
something. It's better than nothing. It's like go attempt to do anything new and get out of your comfort zone and go play and see what you're made of. See where your limits are. Realize that there are none. You're limitless.
It's amazing. I wish I had a souvenir to show you if I took hip hop. I took hip hop dancing.
Oh, I'm so jealous.
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna find another studio to like do it. But I took hip hop dancing in a place that wasn't
That's
necessarily.
awesome.
And I
I
was
love
like,
that.
"Are we doing more?" Because I thought it was like I jumped into class with people who were there to like become hip hop dancers. Because that's what like I just thought I showed up like for wrestling. Like, hello, I'm here to be a wrestler. So like I brought I brought my little water bottle and my little towel, and I was like, hey, I'm here to be a hip hop dancer. And they were like, this is like a one-off class. And I was like, what do you mean one? What are you gonna learn in one class? And they're like giving us like a few dance moves to then like what take off to the universe. I was like, I'm
Yeah,
not gonna remember this tomorrow. I need to come back. It was like an intro to hip hop. I was like.
that's awesome.
I was like, I have two left feet. Come back.
Yeah. That's something I'd like to learn. But like, if you want that, like that's a fear of mine. It's like oh, just I'm not a very good dancer, and it's like not like bad. And I know I'm breaking some of my linguistic rules here. I have a couple times here, but I'm not a very good dancer, and it's not like a bad dancer and like oh that's funny that he dances bad. It's like no, it looks he dances like it looks like he doesn't know how to have sex. Like that's how he dances.
But
Uh,
you're doing your best.
yeah.
But it's
So
not
yeah,
like you don't dance like Elaine.
it's bad.
I mean, I
It's
could
like
do the Elaine dance. You don't dance like Elaine.
so. That would be a nice thing to do. I want to
Yeah.
take a class when I can afford it. Yeah, man, just getting out and like improv, like comedy. Like I give credit to people that, like, I had a buddy that was just doing like stand up comedy. Like he would go to open mic nights, do like 5 minute sets, and like look, it wasn't great, but it's like good for you. Like comedy is like
It's
hard,
hard.
and it's like if you don't get a laugh, you're not good, right? It's like everything is just contingent. There's no room for you know. It's like objective. No laugh.
It is.
That's it. It's not like, oh yeah, no, that's an interesting dance, or that this is still functional. It's like, no, if the joke doesn't get a laugh, you're bad. Uh, yeah, I give people credit. Yeah, your soul has to learn how to take bumps. Yeah,
Oh
yeah,
yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
I want to do stand up. If we're all friends here, being honest, I've thought about it, and then I think every time I go to do stand up, how I talk about it turns into a bit, because in my head I see myself as like just floundering, like when Marshall goes up and does his fish bit,
Yes.
and hey, like I'm like I wouldn't do that, but in my head I have like day nightmares of like what I would actually do, and I'm like I know I wouldn't do that, but it turns into a bit every time I would go to approach it, which I think is funny in and of itself.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
I've bombed on stage before. It's not
Is it?
not fun. It's not. I the like the most embarrassing like performance thing ever was Impact. It was in Chicago. Impact was doing like a I don't know like a streaming show a weekend of something. It wasn't like a main show. It wasn't a big show. They did like a couple of variety things. And Scott had asked, or my boss had asked if I would do my podcast live, right? And so I did like a live Jimmy Jacobs Doesn't Know in Chicago with Desmond Xavier. He's in WWE now as something else. I think he's in NXT as one of the champions. He's part of the Rascals, Desmond Xavier, and Ken Shamrock. And I'm talking about like deep like life philosophical things with these people,
Oh
like in
my
front of a
god.
wrestling audience, and they just didn't care at all. I mean, and I only did, I was planning to like, put in a little bit of time, like 3 or 4 minutes, man. And it was just
Oh.
like dying. Wesley, yeah. I was just dying up there. Just nobody cared. And I'm just like sweating and embarrassed. And I'm like, oh, this is just, I want to shove my head in the sand right now.
That's gonna be it. Oh, Bark
Yeah.
Dog, you could definitely do streaming. Don't worry, we got you. We got you. We'll figure it out. We can do that. You don't want to do stand up? We could streaming. We got you.
Yeah.
Stand up.
This is no pressure. This is just like talking. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, this
Because
isn't TV.
yeah, like with streaming, you can. I've noticed it's the playground, it's the sandbox. You can do as much with, or as as least with as you're comfortable and you're ready for. So like if what you're ready for is like this, like we made our bricks purple, we're hanging out, then like this is what we're ready for, and like everyone, like we're cool. So it's like streaming gives you the ability to kind of like open the valve as you're ready. I can also open the valve all the way and not be ready. Like that's definitely up to us for streaming anyway. And it's okay if they don't laugh because we can't hear them. So I can laugh at
Baby,
my own jokes.
that's right. Babies,
Baby
all baby.
steps. Hey, stupid face man, you made it at the end. Stupid face man has a great record of showing up at the end of the Threat of Intimacy, and the first episode that we did, we literally were at time, and we had just had this like very deep conversation. Went on the whole ride, all emotional, laughing, tears, and then like right at the end, we're like blah blah blah, everybody, okay, thanks, and da, 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 da. And he goes, "What I miss?" And then like the text comes up like as we're saying goodbye. So timing, timing, timing is good. Stupid Face Man is also a voice actor.
It's the stupid face man. Let's
The
get that
Stupid Face Man.
get the definite article in there. It's like
The Stupid
the
Face Man.
not just a.
Not
There's a lot of
not anyone, just the. Specifically the.
yeah.
That's it.
Oh my god.
Awesome. Oh my god. Ridiculous. Well, I'm really glad that you did the blacksmithing thing. That's exciting. I'm glad I got to see your work. That's super cool. And that's super cool. I'm so excited. I'm gonna look up Groupons to go do it. So I'll go make some art too.
Go to the forge, man.
I want to go to the forge super bad. Instead of just forging on Diablo 4, I'll forge in real life. And that's a perfect note to end our show on. Tell everyone where they can find you other than the farm.
I'm currently on Instagram at Jimmy Jacobs X, like Mega Man X, Jimmy Jacobs X. And, JimmyJacobs.com is never updated, but it'll always have my contact information. And so if anything else goes down, if I get off social media, JimmyJacobs.com, you can find my, contact information and else.
Amazing. And as usual, crowd, thank you so much for watching. I love you all and appreciate you all so, so much. Thank you for coming to the show, for being open, for being vulnerable, and for hanging tight while we go deep in the ocean with you. Thank you for meeting the threat of intimacy yet again. This is your host, Solo Darling. And remember, please stay hydrated. We'll see you next time on the Threat of Intimacy.